And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I've got Jake Chappell. Everybody knows Jake. Well, maybe they don't, but we're going to get to know Jake. And as we always do, Jake, no one knows Jake better than Jake. So Jake, give us some backstory, bring us up to speed, and we're going to get into an amazing conversation.
Okay, sounds great. Richard, first off, thanks for having me here, man. This is awesome. It's good seeing you again. For me, I grew up in a small town of 1,200 people in Alabama, and so I wasn't exposed to much of the world. Having that been my circumstance, I decided that I was going to join the military, at 21 to maybe see some life, and that was the idea, and it worked out pretty well. So I did 4 years in the Air Force, got to travel a bunch and see a lot of cool things. Growing up, I was a fighter. I did 13 years in karate and 10 years in jiu-jitsu, which I really enjoyed. But later on, I kind of got burnt out a little bit on it. But nevertheless, I mean, it had an incredible impact on my life, discipline-wise and work-wise, I guess you could say. And then once I got out of the military, I was in Seattle. It was my last duty station. I was talking to one of my buddies, and I said, "Hey, man, I need some sunshine because I haven't had some in a while." And he said, "Move to Arizona. That's where you're going to find it." And so I said, "Bet." I moved down here, and I've been here for 4 years. Decided I have my GI Bill, and I wanted to go to school for business to understand business, which is great, and I love it. But business school kind of sucks. It's kind of boring, and you're just doing a lot of calculus and a lot of math stuff. You're not really learning business. You're more so learning how to be a calculator or a computer. So I said, you know what? There's one thing I've always wanted to do, and that is film. I've always wanted to do film. And I never pursued it because I thought it was silly. This is not realistic. I need to get a normal job and work a 9 to 5 like everybody else is doing. What am I thinking? Even entertaining this idea. And so now I am in film school learning film, and it is the most amazing thing that I have ever done with my life on top of everything else. It is absolutely incredible.
That is awesome. That is the stuff about business school is so true. It's just true. I could share stories. I mean, when I help people, students who are, whether they're getting their MBA or they're getting their bachelor's or whatever in this business, and I give them some of my stuff and they go, why don't they teach this at college? I'm not learning any of this. I go, because they can't, because they have to program and they have to run for a certain amount of business changes. It's a landscape that's changing all the time. And they can't really get into even specifics, right? They're not going to bring in a bunch of subject matter experts and teach you like, here's this part of marketing.
Right.
Here's this part. So you're not going to get that. That's only either OJT, right? On the job training, you're out there doing it. Or, as I like to encourage people, I always give them this little saying: certifications and licenses make you money, degrees cost you money. Okay, so you got to think about that. You go through all that time to get that degree, and you got to go, oh, no one can really use me because they don't know anything about business except that I have an MBA. And I'm not totally knocking it. There's a place for it, but that practical application in business, in the workplace, in entrepreneurship is a very different thing. So I totally get where you're coming from. I would have never made it, dude. I was standing in line to go to college with my schedule and my check. I'm looking around going, you got to be kidding me. I was like 17. I'm like, I ripped it up, threw it in the trash, and joined the Marine Corps. I mean, I'm like, there's no way I can go through this. It's like being in a cave. I couldn't do it. It was hard.
Well, we were talking about legacy before we press recorded, and or before we press record. And one of the things I thought about is you said your son he's in his early 20s, right?
He's 20.
He's 20. And so what I was thinking about, you said he's unique, and you were having that podcast with him, and you're looking over like, wow, this is my son. Like, this is incredible what he's become and what he's doing. And what I thought about then was, this is a conversation I talked with my dad, is, you understand that when you were growing up, 50, 60 years ago, life was a lot different. If you needed information, you had to buy it, you had to pay for it, you had to go to class, you had to go to the library, you had to physically get your hands, you had to physically see somebody face to face for anything to happen, right? There was that transaction. Whereas now I could just right here on my phone pull up world-class education information and learn it right here. There's no barrier. And so, you growing up, you're in this state of constant survival and just trying to make the basic ends meet. And education was like this higher thing, right? Think about 100 years ago, educated was you could read and write. that was educated. And now most kids are doing Calc 2 by the time they get out of high school. Things have just changed that way. And so I don't think that well, I know one thing. I think for the kids today, they just get so much hate on, but I think they're incredibly smart and intelligent because that people like yourself have created this environment for people to have that, right? That is success, is when the next generation has it easier. They have it better. You did job well done because it's not worse, it's better.
Yeah.
And so having said that, what I was going to say about the business education side is what I find is that people that don't really know a lot about something in their field, they tend to overcomplicate things to sound fancy and sophisticated to make it sound like they know a lot. Whereas the people that I meet that actually know more, they are very simple and it's very intuitive and not much is being said. It's straight to the point. And so with the business, that's what I was finding is there's a lot of overcomplication of stuff. Why are we doing, I failed 3 semesters in a row on calculus. Imagine that I didn't get my business degree because I couldn't do calculus. Think about
Yeah.
that for a second.
Which you'd probably never use in business.
I've never used it to this day. I never will. And that train of thought is cool if you're going to be an engineer or something like that. When you're looking at complex problems in the world and you're trying to find simple solutions to them, calculus is not the answer.
Yeah, I think, and I forget the doctor, whoever figured this out, but all complex systems are created by simple systems. There are a series of simple systems that make a complex system, right? So we have to begin in the simple, right? In order for anything to start to be able to attach to each other, they create a complex system, which doesn't mean it's not understandable. It's just what actually built it was not, they didn't start with complex and dummy down.
Yeah.
They started simple and they combined and that created complex, right? So really, it's important for people to understand that because in business, that's what you have to do when you're a problem solver. You don't want it complicated. I don't need 19 whiteboards full of equations to figure something out. Okay.
Right.
I need, well, do like when I coach people, they go like, I can't figure this thing out. And I go, well, do this and that. It's just, I could tell people in 30 seconds, like what to do,
Which, by the way, 19 whiteboards or chalkboards filled with equations on film looks awesome. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this guy has got it figured out. But like you said, in real life, that is preposterous.
Right, exactly. And speaking of film too, like you said, like the difference between today and when I was young, since you threw me under the bus on that one. Okay.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay. I'm just kidding. But I was into film. Okay. Super 8 film. Okay.
Yeah.
Video had just like, you couldn't even do it. It was too expensive. Now you already held up your camera. Okay.
Yeah,
the phone.
iPhone right
you
here.
can
iPhone
be a filmmaker and they're doing it all the time and making money with a phone. Like that was impossible. We were building miniatures and blowing stuff up and had the military donating everything from aircraft to uniforms and barracks and shooting a World War II adventure film and doing all this. It was work. I mean, it was really cool. And then trying to get the film and everything else. But what you can do today, writing is another one. I was a writer when I was young. Try to get published in like 1975 or 1980.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
try that. Today, it's like you hit enter and you got a blog, you're published, or people are, I'm a best-selling author now. I'm all this different stuff. Right. But then forget it. You had to be like, top 5 on New York Times and have a publisher and all the nonsense. But it's so open for success. Everything's there for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think, tell me what you think about this. Like, again, that's knowledge. Okay. The struggle is they've got all this knowledge, but they don't have the application. They don't have the wisdom to put this together, like what makes sense and really move it forward. That's where I find a lot of people struggle. It's almost like information overload. Like you're saying, the simplicity aspect is like you've got to pick and use what you have. You still have to limit yourself because you'll get it by, paralysis by analysis, right? You get stuck in, well, I should use this and this, and I can make this better. You get stuck in that perfection mode. And that's what grinds everything to a halt. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that with YouTube today, it has also amplified the problem because a lot of YouTubers and influencers today, their job is to sell you a product. Their job is to sell you retention. They want you to watch their stuff to sell the ads. And so what they're going to do is like, let's say like for me in the camera world is I'm looking for a camera. they're going to review it. They're going to pixel peep everything. They're going to break down the chart and compare it and all this nonsense to where they'll have these rare YouTubers come through and say, hey, look, dude, back in 2008 or 9 or whatever, they filmed an episode of House on this simple camera. They recorded the Sony a7S II. They recorded a whole series on this camera. The color isn't right. The depth, the dynamic range isn't right. All of this stuff that we get caught webbed up, in, it doesn't matter because the ultimate thing when it comes to the filmmaking is the story. And so it's the same thing with like the business and action. Is I was doing some door knocking, and this is going to come back to you. So praise to you for the last time we talked. Is when you told me that whenever you don't do quotes, that you do presentations. So you don't just send them out a dollar sign and say, hey, here's all the stuff you're going to get, because they're just going to instantly jump right down. This costs X amount of dollars. Can I afford it? Can I not? I don't know. There's 1,000 excuses that go on. So when I was door knocking last week for my brother's business in Alabama to help him out, I didn't need to know really anything about that. He does biological lawn treatments. I didn't need to know about the weeds. I didn't need to know about the trees, the time of the year, anything. When I would knock on the door, and we sold about 2,000 in one day, all I would say is your lawn doesn't look good. We're going to make it look fantastic. It's going to look amazing. And they're like, well, do you have any pictures? Sure. Yeah, we'll show you some work right here. Here's the transformation. So back to what you're saying, I was selling the transformation. Who gives a shit about all of the details in between? Who gives a shit about that?
They don't care
I want
about
my
the
grass to
how.
look green. No, it doesn't. The how doesn't matter. I want my grass to be green. Can you do it? Yes or no? Yes, I can do it. Boom, sold. And that's the transformation. Whereas I think we get caught up in the constant trying to sound smart and witty and sharp. It's like, yeah, I've been a marketer for so many years and SEO and, all this stuff that people don't give a shit.
Right. Yeah, it's I was watching these commercials. They got Scott's lawn fertilizer, right? And they got the red bearded guy, and he's with these guys. And I'm looking at the lawn. And he's saying how great it is, and they use this, and they think lawn service is a scam, and they can do it themselves. And I'm looking at and I grew up in the golf course business, okay, so I know a little bit about turf.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm looking at those yards are crap. They're terrible. When was the last time they mowed that thing? I'm like analyzing the actual lawn in the commercial. I'm like, I'm not going to get that. Like, no, I want a lawn service because I don't want my lawn to look like that. You
Right.
do it yourselfer. So I'm like,
Right.
but you know what I mean? But they're marketing to the do it yourselfer. They literally have them saying, that lawn's a scam. I'm going to do it myself. And they got their kids, hey, I got 200 pounds of dogs that run around the yard every day. I got to, you know what I mean? So they understand their niche. They don't care if I could be the professional lawn guy using the same stuff on their lawn. I could be using the same fertilizer, but they're actually, but I'm a service and I drive all the value and I have the end product and the transformation and all that. So
Right.
you're exactly right. And it's that, and I'm glad that worked for you because people want the outcome.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Right?
all
We
they want.
talk
It's
about
transformation.
the pain is the yard looks terrible. The
Mhm.
outcome, it'll be magnificent, best lawn on the block.
Yeah.
Envy of the block. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the outcome. Every day you walk up, and for me, there's an old saying we always talk about the grass. Being a Marine, we're not big on anyone walking on the grass. Okay, so it's kind of a thing.
Stay off the commander's grass.
So a guy told me, he goes, only, and he was like, he was a Marine, a buddy of mine in high school, and his dad was a big commander, of a naval air base and stuff in Glenview. He's like, only sailors and dogs walk on the grass. That's what he told me. And I was like, I never forgot that. I was like 14 when he told me that, I've like never forgot it. Only sailors and dogs walk on the grass, Pretty funny. Anyways, enough of the lawn stuff. It was pretty funny though. But yeah,
Well, the transformation stuff it's so powerful. Like I can give you a really good example because I know a ton about camera gear. Like if I'm going to tell you, hey, I have this Sony camera and it has 15 stops of dynamic range. It's 10-bit 422 color. It shoots an H.265. I can do external recording for Apple ProRes. Everything I just said to you, you were just like this. The main question is nobody cares about that. Is exactly, and I'm fascinated and I love it, which is great because I need to talk about that stuff with my buddies because that's the insider language. The thing is if I come up to a video camera with you and you're like, I want this commercial shot. I want these photos taken. Can you do it? Yes or no? Will you make me look amazing? I want to look professional. I want to look elegant. I want to look depressed and tired. I want to look super happy. Can you make this happen? Yes or no? And that's just pretty much it. And so what I've figured out is I don't actually have to know a lot to sell anything. It's just believing in what you're saying. Like, can you do it? Absolutely, I could do it.
I had a
100,000% I could do it.
Yeah, I had a young guy, and he's like 18, he's 17, he's 18. You know, he's in the film, he's in the photos. We're doing a retreat out in like Vale, Beaver Creek at the Ritz. Oh, so cool. We're teaching guys. We're out underneath this bridge, and he's like, "Well, let me do some headshots, of you." And I'm like, "Okay." So I stand by this wall, and he takes his shot. I've been using it for a couple of years now. It was so perfect. The kid's just gifted. I mean, he spends time learning lighting. He knows all this stuff. He doesn't tell you all about that. You just have this amazing end product.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just amazing. You know what I mean? Like the headshot. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, that's it. That's what I'm, give me that's an amazing headshot. That's got longevity. You know what I mean? It's really, I'm with you. And he had a black magic camera or whatever it was, I mean,
Yep.
some high end, whatever, but
Yep.
who cares? Right?
Yeah.
The picture, all I want is the picture.
That's
How
all we
amazing
care
is
about,
the
is the
picture?
picture.
So yeah, good point. And I think from a business standpoint, talking about that, it's the same thing. It's just understand what your customer truly needs. They don't need your product. They need the outcome the product produces,
Yeah.
right? The product, it doesn't matter. In your customer's eyes, they're not going to walk around saying, I got the greatest, whatever in this jar and all this kind of stuff. It's like, they're going to show what it does. Right. So I just think that's something a lot of people don't take home with them when they're pitching their service or their product. Right. Do you find that too? Like people seem to be a little bit off on what they're delivering. If you want to get right down to it, I
Yeah.
guess it's features. They're talking features instead of benefits.
Yeah,
That's what it
absolutely.
really comes down to.
I was just sitting there thinking, like, how is it that a missionary can walk up to the door, knock on the door, and sell somebody on you need to sacrifice your pornography, alcohol, swearing, you need to sacrifice everything and believe in this one thing for your eternal salvation, right? Like that's what they do. And it's like, how can you do that? And what I think it comes down to is just 100% conviction. And all they say is all you have to say is you need to have faith and that it will guide you to a better life and a better afterlife. But what I'm saying is the Bible's filled with, thousands and thousands of meanings and words and all these different things, but they don't go over all that. It's just basically simple stuff.
Yeah.
And they have 100% conviction. And so I'm thinking, if a person can do that, you could sell anybody anything if you have conviction and you believe, and conviction is believing the product, but if you make it so simple that anybody can understand it and it doesn't get lost. I find that, like you said, like when you first get into something, you get so excited by the bells and whistles, everything's shiny, it's like, wow, this is so cool, all the camera gear and all the lighting and all this stuff. But then the higher the level the person is, they stop caring about any of it. They just start caring about the main concept. What are we trying to do here? Are we accomplishing that? The rest of this is just tools.
It's, you want to really break it down. It's art.
Yeah.
It's all art.
Yeah.
I'm an internationally recognized steel sculptor. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing during the process.
Oh,
I'm not
that's
worried
right.
about, I've got this kind of welder and I'm going to do this and I've got this kind of steel and I'm going to do, I have no idea. I'm making things and they become what they become.
Yeah.
A story I always share was I had a woman that commissioned me to do a sign for her boutique down in downtown Chicago. And it's like, so let's look at this tree that branches over the sidewalk and it moves and all kinds of stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I'll do all that. Because she's seen my work. And like, she goes, well, I want to come look at it when you're half finished. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not really into that. Okay. So she's really insisting that she comes out to see this thing to my construction where I build everything, So I had a 14-inch pipe about 4 feet long, and I bent like a 1-inch solid round bar that's 21 feet long. I bent it and I welded it to the side of the big pipe and laid it on the ground and told her it's ready to see. She came out. She comes out on a Saturday and like she sees I'm not there. She comes out, she looks at it. Here's the voicemail. I am so disappointed. I thought blah, blah, blah. She's going on about how disappointed it is. I'm paying all this money and everything else. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like a week later, it's done, right? I work on it, get fit. Now, it took me all day on a Sunday to install this, take out a loan, put it in, everything else. Monday, here's the voicemail now on Monday. You're the master. This is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, Yeah, let me play back that other voicemail about
Yeah.
what a disappointment I am.
Let's
Okay, like you
rewind a
don't
week.
you don't peek under the cover on the canvas, right? You're not looking underneath there halfway through. It doesn't get done. But to the point that really is what you're presenting, that outcome, it's an art form. Okay, that's what you're delivering. So again, it's the how that doesn't matter. It's what it's going to look like. And this thing was kinetic. It moved over and people would come by and take pictures and it was unbelievable. One of a kind thing. No one else had anything like it. I mean, and like it was all about that. And those two voicemails are the perfect example. She wanted to come see how I'm doing it. You didn't get to. Okay. All you really want is the end product.
Right, right,
It's
right.
perfect. When people, all my water feature work, my other scopes work, if they saw the pictures, that's what sold. I don't have to say anything.
Yeah,
Here's what I create. What's mine going to look like? I don't know. Do you see any
yeah.
two that are like in there? Of course
Yeah,
not.
that's true. Somebody's not going to watch during the process and say, "Oh, that's neat," if the outcome isn't extraordinary. It's only when
Right.
something is amazing at the end, at the outcome, and then you watch during the process, you're like, "Oh, that's really neat how they're doing that." But you wouldn't say it's neat if it turned out to be just a giant pile of garbage.
Right.
It
We
wouldn't
were at
wouldn't
the
even have any meaning.
went to the Gibson guitar factory in Memphis. Did a tour of that place.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
it's
must have been
cool.
cool.
It's cool. It's like there's all handmade and they paint this and this guy does this and he's been there for 25 and all this. Like, but really, like, can I just see the finished ones?
Yeah,
Like,
the
it's
the
all cool, but
guitar.
like, I want to look at those. Let's listen to those. Like, that is,
Right,
it's that. I mean, everyone wants to see it's cool to see the process. Don't get me
right.
wrong. But only because they had the outcome. The greatest musicians play these. This is worth all of that makes the process interesting. Otherwise, no one gives a rip.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that because I was wondering about a lot of times we want the outcome, but we don't want the work that goes into it or the process. When you see somebody who's doing really good in their industry, let's just say it's an actor. Let's just say it's Matthew McConaughey. I don't know. We'll just come up with it. And you say, I would love to be like Matthew McConaughey, a superstar, actor. He's been all over the place. He lives in a mansion, like all this stuff. But then it's like, well, what did he go through to get there? I mean, do you want that too? Because that's what it takes to get there. And I don't think that we sometimes put two and two together, to be an incredible speaker on stage in front of thousands of people. Well, it took, I was talking to Scott Allen. I was at the Global Ambassador Hotel and he was giving a speech. I was talking to him afterwards and he said, remember this, Jake, remember that was 17 years of speaking. Don't
Right.
compare your first year to that. Don't do it.
Right.
And I thought, wow.
People do it with the influencers. I want to be an influencer. Who are you?
Yeah.
You've done nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
You've done nothing. Okay. And you want to be an influencer. Like, why would I buy, I wouldn't buy anything from you. No, but
It's,
you know what I mean? They
yeah.
don't get that there's 10 years for every overnight success.
Yeah.
These guys put in the time. You don't see it. They work. You're right. But if we flip it, the other thing is right. I've done the work, and here's a good example. When people are paying me for whatever I do, they're not paying for the materials. They're paying for the outcome and they're paying for my 35 years of experience. And I built
Right.
1,000 and all of this one of a kind, and only I can do this. No
Right.
one can make what I made. I have a world-class exhibit. No one can equal. Okay. They pay me a lot for that. I'm not just some welder who can put things together.
Right.
Okay. I had a former Navy guy come up to me at a show. I've got all these sculptures and he's like, this is amazing. I'm going, well, what do you do? He goes, well, I weld thermocouples on nuclear submarines. I'm like, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Exactly.
yeah, but I can never do this. I go, you could do this, but I can't do what you do. No one
Yeah.
wants me welding a nuclear thermocouple. People are going to die. Okay. But you know what I mean? So sometimes we don't get, I go, you know how many years he worked to be able to do that?
Yeah.
I have another
Yeah.
guy, same thing. They fly this guy around the world to weld. That's how good he is. Upside down in a tank with a mirror. He can do anything.
Wow.
Like anything, right? Food grade. He can do anything. And he comes to my show and he's looking at my stuff and he's like, this is just amazing. And
Yeah.
I know him and I'm like, Richie, like, dude, this is just like, he goes, no, dude, I can't do this. And I'm like, you look at a guy, you're like, see, that's what I mean. It's not, here's a guy who, I mean, they fly him around the world to weld stuff. I mean, you're kind of good. People are doing
Yeah.
that. And
Really good.
I'm some hack in the yard making trees and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like
It's so interesting because when you're saying it, it sounds like, well, two things. Recently, I discovered about alignability, becoming alignable, which is a fascinating thing, and we can talk about it in a minute. I think it's really cool. But onto that point, I think that trying to stay in our own lane, are you having technical issues? No. Trying to stay in our own lane and focus on what we're really good at. I think sometimes more is less and less is more. Meaning, and I learned this with food too. It seems like it's the simplest things that mean the most. It's the, like talking about my grandfather, he snapped some photos on a beach in Brazil back in 1959, right? Such a simple thing, extraordinary outcome. His grandson I get to see that and I look at him completely different. It was just so simple. It was just a photograph, but it transforms. And I have a saying that ordinary today is extraordinary tomorrow. It's this idea of the simpler we can make things, the more down into our lane. What do we do? What do we specialize in? What are we a master of? And do that. For me, it's camera. I'm a DP guy. I'm behind a camera. I love the camera stuff. So when they say, hey, look, we need a camera guy, it's Jake right here. You know what I'm saying? If they're looking for somebody to do 3D renderings or something like that, I've done it, but I'm not the guy. I'm not the
right,
guy. That's
right.
not me. And so I think we see some companies that are like Amazon, who has like AWS and Whole Foods, and we think that like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk with Starlink and the Neuralink and SpaceX and Tesla and all this stuff. We think, okay, well, he's a master of all this stuff. No, he's not. He's really good at figuring out who are masters of those things and giving them a vision to do that, to carry that out. Same thing with Amazon. Jeff Bezos is not really good at knowing clean foods and stuff like that for Whole Foods. He's not really good at knowing the structure and the coding that's necessary for AWS. He's not really good at knowing all the logistics and stuff for the shipping. But he's really good at figuring out who is good at those things and giving them a vision, aligning them with their vision, which leads me on to my second point, alignment. And I always thought, how is it like, why do I don't have my Apple Watch on me today? It's on the charger. But why is it like I just naturally go with Apple? With my iPad, my iPhone, my Apple Watch, like I don't even think about it. I just do it. And it's because Apple has created this incredible vision of innovation, right? And I want to align myself with that. I'm signaling to the world, hey, Jacob, I'm an innovator like Apple is. So I'm going to wear their products. I'm aligning. And so I thought that's fascinating because, story beats facts every single day. Who cares about the facts? It's the story, right? And so with a company and a business, it's not about saying, like you were talking about earlier, selling the features. Like, oh yeah, this iPhone has, I don't know, a 20 megapixel camera and it has two of them and it has a 60 hertz screen on it. Who cares? Who gives a shit? But it has the logo on it that's like, oh, this is innovation. I'm an innovator. I want this. I want to align with that. I want the world to know that. And so it's just that same thing with the company too. I think it's just making something so simple and that is in our lane, that is so clear, and we can share the vision with the rest of the world. It's so, they see it and they're like, yep, I know exactly what that is. If I see the Pepsi colors, just Pepsi, the colors, I automatically just hear that pop, like soda can or the twist on the top, and then the taste. It's just clockwork. You just automatically, and it's just so simple. It's so simple.
Yeah, I think it's you go into Starbucks and you see someone, or most people will have a MacBook, right? That's what they're working on. So I worked on. Now you go, okay, they're an Apple guy. You start, but you see them with a PC. You're not going to define them.
Right.
Okay. A Mac, you can pretty much go, that's this person. You look what they're wearing and this, and they've got the earbuds and they got, right. And they've done that. And you're like, they're different in the Apple way. Okay, I don't have to get into all the whys, but you look at PC, you're like a whatever, a Ford Escort. I don't know what you are. It's every day. It's low end. And I'm not beating up PC users. I'm just saying that.
No, for sure.
That you don't designate a PC user as a certain individual, but you do with a Mac user, an Apple user, right? So and that's just powerful branding.
Yeah, it's great branding. Like with my brother's company, and by the way, and it's awesome to see him doing so well. Started 2 months ago. We worked months before that to help him figure out the branding, the marketing, the structure, the whole atmosphere of it. He's really, really good at what he does. He knows everything about it. I mean, extremely talented. And he's really good with people too. He keeps it simple, which is great. But he's already hit over, I think he's at 60% of his revenue goal for the entire year. And it's just been 60 days, or I guess almost 90 days now, which is
Tell
incredible.
him, tell him to stop shooting so low.
Yeah, that and
Okay.
no,
Tell him to
I
raise
push
his
him.
targets. I'm just playing.
No, no, I know, but see, here's the thing though, is there's a counterbalance that goes on because I am too ambitious, I am too audacious, I am too, I think courageous is not the right, it's too noble to say call myself that, but I'm too out there, and he is more reserved. I mean, think about it. You know, it's so simple when you look at a business owner and say, well, why the hell are you not doing this? And it's like, well, I have a 3-year-old daughter at the house and a wife who depends on me and a mortgage and all this stuff. I can't run the risk. What if I lose everything? When you know those things and you're down in the trenches with them and you're in their shoes, like, oh, I get it now. Because looking 30,000 feet and being boots on the ground, day and night difference.
Right.
You know, I
That's
could
right.
tell you how to run your business 100% from the outside. It's easy. It's easy to watch the football game from the bleachers and tell you, why didn't you just make this play instead of that play? Well, dude, I just got the shit wrung out of my head like the last play, and I'm still dizzy from it, man. So it's just this interesting thing of the reality of life is trying to figure out, okay, how do I set a structure, create these systems to where I follow these systems to where no matter what I'm feeling, and it can kind of deviate a little bit, I resort back to the systems. I think the systems are the most important thing is just create simple structures that say step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. How come the C-17, I was a jet engine mechanic in the Air Force. C-17 can be worked on by 18-year-old kids straight out of high school. They never
That's
even,
right.
they just got off their allowance and they're working on
Yeah.
a $300 million aircraft and it's flying in the air, no problem. How is that? Because the systems in the Air Force are so structured. They have the TO, which is the technical orders from, I think it's the Secretary of the Air Force that says, you are going to follow this or you're done. You know, these are the rules.
There's real consequences.
Yeah, massive consequences.
That's what people are missing. When I deal with these businesses, I'm like, what are the consequences? Well, what do you mean? Well, you're saying don't do that, but when they don't do it, or they do it, like
Yeah.
what's the punishment? You haven't laid that out. Well, they're going to get written up. Written up?
Who gives a
What
shit
is
about
that? That no one cares. It's like telling your kid you're going to stand in the corner for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Who cares?
yeah.
Who
And the Air
cares?
Force, it was the same thing. That was the one thing they liked for. They had the twins, which was a paper write-up. It was basically saying, and I think that was like 2 341s would turn into an LOC, and then 2 LOCs would turn into an LOR, and then 2 LORs would turn into an Article 15. It would just build up.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. And the people that happened to was so far and few. I told people you had to be a disaster of a human being to get
Yeah.
kicked out of the military. Like
Yeah.
you had to be messed up. But it comes back to this alignability. I have the dry erase board over here. It's a 6x3 dry erase board, huge board, 6x4 rather. And I have a couple filmmakers in here, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm about to pitch the story to them. I don't even know the story fully. I don't grasp it, but I have a vision. I can see it. And so I'm just gonna start gibberish. I'm gonna start rambling. I'm gonna start talking about it. And I start doing this, and 5 minutes later, after I'm writing, I look over and they're all drooling. They're just drooling. And in my head, I thought, this is bullshit. Like I know the story's amazing, and I can see it, and I believe it. And what was fascinating was I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit for the simple things in our minds, the simple ideas we have, the simple beliefs we have, because we restrict them for fear of embarrassment, humiliation. That a lot of times we don't want to be accountable because what if we're wrong? Then we're going to look like an idiot. But it's amazing when you just fully let your heart out, like, hey, here's my vision. This is what I see in my head. What do you think about it? And you just fully just commit to it. It's amazing because either people are like drooling and they're like, that's amazing, or they'll straight up say, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. But there's no in between.
Right.
There's no in between.
Yeah, it's vision is a really good topic. We do strategic vision, right? We help companies write it. I have one from my own coaching company. I mean, they're 12, 14 pages long, but people read it and they know exactly where they fit and they want to be in the story.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you write it like that, like that's me. I'm that guy. Okay, I'm not that guy, but I'm this guy. I want this job. I want to work here. I want to be part. I want to fulfill this vision because it says me. This is FutureCast. This isn't what we're doing now. It's what we're going to do. So the 30 of us are going to make this happen in the next 2 years.
Right.
And they're like, I want to be part of that. Like that's me. And it works so well because it's like a great filter. And then, really people understand and we always looking back at the vision. It's not the mission statement that's on the wall and it becomes wallpaper in like a week and it's only serving the ego of the owner, and all that stuff.
Right.
But this gives them their thing, right? Their vision that they're going to fulfill. And if they can't, the whole thing breaks down. So when someone's, and I'll air quote, incompetent, we just say, well, you're not fulfilling the strategic vision, so you got to go.
Yeah.
We have a vision to fulfill. It's not you're a turd, okay, even though you are, okay? It's just not what we call you. We just say you're not fulfilling the strategic vision and you got to go, right? We got to
Yeah.
get the person who will. So you're right. It's painting the vision, okay? It's making it plain. Okay, this is, to give you a biblical verse, Habakkuk 2:2. Write the vision down on tablets, make it plain so a man can pick it up and run. Okay. It's that simple. It's got to be simple so they can pick up so they can run, right? People have
Yeah.
to be able to grab onto it. It's not complicated. Okay. They understand exactly what they do and why they're doing it, right? The big vision, I don't tell you to empty the trash in the lobby so that the trash can's empty.
Mm.
That's not why. It's so when someone walks in, if the trash is overflowing and they're walking in for the first time in my business, you've just tarnished the reputation of my entire business
Yeah.
by not emptying the trash can.
Right.
You
Yeah.
want that on your shoulders?
It's amazing that I have figured out. No, I've figured out it's not the right word. I am on to the early trail, the journey of that understanding that, or understanding is not the right word. Comprehending that and grasping that story is everything. Everything is story. Spoiler alert: if you watch 1923, do you watch the show? Just to
My
make
wife's
sure.
been watching that.
Okay.
She's been
Spoiler
watching
alert.
that, Yep.
Spoiler alert. I'm gonna tell you last episode. I'm gonna say this out there. So if you hear this is the latest episode, I think maybe episode 6 or 7. Yeah. But to give you an example, when she is traveling, I forgot her name actually, and I love the show. But when she's traveling across the country, there was a rich couple that sees her go through some heartache and some hardship on the train, and they take her in. And she's telling this incredible story about how her and her husband had met, and they had all these trials and tribulations. They got separated, and now they're trying to meet back up in Montana. And he's gone a different route, and she's gone a different route. And hopefully, they think they're both headed to Montana, which they are. But she doesn't really know, and she believes that he is. So she tells this couple, this very wealthy couple, about this, and they said, "We've got to help you." So they map out, and they're going to drive from Chicago to, I think, Bozeman, Montana, which is, I don't know, 1,500 miles back in the early, it was 1923, and one of those early cars, which is just, I mean, it was June or July, and it was completely covered in snow. It was treacherous. But see, you think, and you watch the show, and you think, no way would a rich couple that's just super wealthy take this woman in and drive and risk their life to travel all the way through Montana, which they end up, spoiler alert, they end up dying. There's no way that they would actually do that. But nobody questions it. You don't question it because you're like, they wanted to be a part of the story.
That's right.
They want to be a part of the story. We want to all be a part of the story. Why do I stop and help the person on the side of the road that has a broken down, tire? There's nothing for me to gain out of it, except for the story. Now
That's
I'm the
right.
hero, and we all want to be the hero. Who
That's
doesn't
right.
want to be the hero? And so making your business and your ideas and your thoughts and everything around how can I have a vision, a goal, and then paint it in a clear enough tone and clear enough words that's simple enough where people say, I want to be a part of that story.
It's funny, Jake, and I'll send it to you. I'll send you my strategic vision so you can see it because it's
Okay.
story form. It's story
Yeah.
with real, right? There's stuff that's going to happen. Characters are created where they came from. You create this, right? Doesn't mean they all actually work here yet, but
Yeah.
this is who they are. This is who we're looking for. This is their story. So it's very engaging. Like I said, it's like 14 pages, got some pictures, everything else, but you're engaged. You're like, oh, it's salespeople, it's office managers, it's production, it's all this coaches, it's all this stuff, right? And you see, it and you're like, man, numbers. Who am I? What's my family like? Who's my wife? My kid. How much I make? What do we do with our time? Like we explain all that in there from a transparency standpoint, but like you can grab the vision. You want to be a part of that. What I'm doing for the people that work under me and with me, right? So it's just like you're saying when you create that. I've done it for tons of companies, and it's amazing what it does when you read it to your people, when you roll it out.
Yeah.
People are crying. because it's purpose. People are
Yeah.
grabbing it and they're like,
People
this
want
is
it
what I
bad. They
want.
want
This is
it.
what That's what they want. They don't want to put A into B all day, right? They want to know like they're making a difference. That's what they want. They want purpose. They want purpose. They
And then
want
that's
quality
and that's it.
feedback.
And that's and going to film school, I see a ton of 18-year-olds that are extremely talented, incredible, intelligent. They work 12 hours on a set, don't complain. They're focused, they're on point. The only thing they're lacking is a sense of urgency and initiative. And all that is usually just an age thing because you go from being told what to do every second of your life, and so now you're like, oh, that's normal. It's normal. But what I'm saying is we still do that when we go into adulthood for years and years and years. And most people do that is most people just don't know how to start, how to do it. So, but they want the purpose. They want the drive, and we will find it anywhere. Video games, TV shows, sports teams, companies, religion. It doesn't matter. We just want to align with a greater purpose. Military is a great example. A lot of people do it for, I want to be a part of something more than myself. In the first couple of weeks in basic for me, it wasn't like, oh, here's how to operate a gun and do all this stuff. It was, here's the history of the United States Air Force, and here's how you can fit into that.
Yep.
Here's how you can create a legacy. You'll be a part of this.
Yeah. People don't
Vision.
know like Marine Corps basic, you're in classes 8 hours a day. They
All
think you're
day.
like working out all day. You're like, dude, we work out like an hour.
You're struggling. The only workout you're doing is trying to figure out how do I not pass out because you're sitting
Right.
there like this
Or you're getting
the whole
thrashed all
day.
day. You're doing bends and thrusts and stuff. But you're right on that because it really is. It's that being part of something is really that thing. That being part of a brotherhood. Like my son in there because he wants that, right? He wants to achieve that great thing, do things that are bigger than themselves, that are way beyond him. You can't. Because it was funny when he like told me he wants to go in. I was like, listen, man, we've had like 20 years of war. We can do classes wherever you want. You know how many guys are teaching all this stuff? And
Yeah.
he's like, it's not the same. I go, you're right. And he had
Yeah.
to kind of check me. I'm like, yeah, you're not getting that. You can go to all your little 3-day weekends and you can shoot and you can use the best equipment and learn all this cool stuff from guys who have been on 20 combat deployments and all this. It's not the same as being in.
Yeah.
When you're fully
Camaraderie.
immersed in this, what you do is who you become. I'm not the air quote weekend warrior, right?
Yeah.
You're literally like in it. And now he's doing what
Yeah,
he
and
does.
it's incredible because people sometimes feel bad and worry and they have all these thoughts of like, well, I didn't join the military and I can't. You can do it with anything, anything. It could be you could be a software developer and then run into another software developer and you were on a team that worked on whatever project. I went to a speech from Brian Connor. He's an Oscar award-winning special effect or visual effects rather artist, and he was a supervisor, the visual effects supervisor for Dune. Okay, the movie Dune. All
The
right.
newer one.
Big deal, huge deal. He's won an Oscar for it, okay? And what's interesting is it was a 3-hour speech. An hour and a half of his speech was about his friends, about how they got to go on these trips together and do all these amazing things together. It was a camaraderie. It was a community. I just saw a statistic this morning, and I haven't verified it, so this is all loosely. But it was saying that the biggest indicator for longevity in life, out of everything in your life, is community, is a sense of connection, a sense of purpose, a sense of aligning with something greater than yourself. So when I ran into a guy last night at Lowe's, and I'm going to get some pipes I'm building like a little small dolly for fitting in tight spaces for the camera. I ran into him and he says, oh yeah, I was I love this kind of stuff. I was a aircraft hydraulic mechanic. And I was, oh, well, I was a C-17 mechanic in the Air Force. And he said, oh, that's where I started back in like 80 something or something like that. It was 70 something. And so next thing we know, we have this connection. And then he's firmly shaking my hand, and I could see that look in his face of like connection. Yeah, I was there. But you can do that with anything. You could do it at the skate park. You could do it rock climbing. It doesn't matter. It's just figuring out the thing that you enjoy, the thing that fires you up, and finding the people that align with that as well. There's nothing more than that camaraderie. But it has to be, what was it? What was I thinking the other day? I don't want to be around people that think the same things that I do, but I want to be around people that think the same way that I do. I want to be around like-minded people. They have the same thought process, but they can disagree with what I say. That's fine. It's probably actually sometimes great because sometimes I come out as an idiot. But it's this being around like-minded people that have the same aligned purpose and common goal. So it's interesting that we've been kind of going on about this for 20 minutes because it's such a powerful thing to hit home.
It is.
Customers, man, I think there's just so much rhetoric about people go with the cheapest prices and people go. Okay, well, why is it that the mother who works at Taco Bell's with, 2 kids, she's still trying to buy an iPhone, right? It's because no matter, you'll figure out a way. I have to align with this. I have to, because we're human beings in this tribal communal environment. We have to. Otherwise, it's our survival depends on it.
Yeah, it's relational. That's what we try to get across. All sales is relational. You got the old, know, like, and trust, but it's true. Like, they got to know you, they got to like you, they got to trust you. Okay. You're not, what is it? 1 to 3% max are people ready to buy right now. Okay. If that's all you're chasing, you're going to be really hungry
Yeah,
because you're not going to do well in business. It's the other 97% you got to court. We have to court our customers, right? You have to build a relationship. You never walk up in a bar and you meet a woman and say, let's get married, right? That's the whole principle. They don't know who
yeah,
you are, right? So people don't get that when it comes down to like a whole customer base. We call it lifetime profitable value. What are they really worth for the next 10 years? Not this sale. This sale's nothing. I could give some for $20. That's just the beginning, right? The next thing's $75 and 175 and then 1,000. And they'll keep buying from me because they know me. They spent money. They got the value from that. And like you're saying, they're driving the value, not the price, right? We're always about the value. We're trying to double, triple, quadruple. If you can quadruple the value, you can double your prices and people will pay it all day. Never
yeah.
question it.
And it's so interesting with everything that we do is you can find the alignability with everything. Like for instance, I love coffee. Who doesn't love coffee, right? Coffee's everywhere. I don't know what brand of this coffee cup is, but let's say it's a Stanley. Let's say it's a Stanley thermos. And as soon as I say Stanley, you smell campfire, coffee, hot cocoa, trips with your dad, the dog's out running, playing
The green,
fetch.
the green thermos with the gray top. That's the Stanley with
Yes.
a little handle that pops up
Yeah.
on the side with the metal buckles. I had was it beat the crap. Yeah, it's that.
And it's that.
It's
And so
that.
what happens is how do you sell? Okay, how do I sell the Stanley Cup? Do I say, hey, look, this thing is rugged. You can drop it. You can beat it to pieces. It keeps your coffee warm. Okay, those are all features, and those are great. But instead, when I'm making the commercials for it, when I'm making the advertisement for it, I'm going
Where
to put
they
it in the hands
fit
of the
it.
father who has his son wrapped up and he's got that big smile and the dad's got the burly beard and he's got the plaid jacket on and
And
he's walking out with the dog to the campsite and there's a river and it's like that. That is what you're selling. That is
right.
it.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's the experience. It's the outcome.
Right.
It's the outcome, what that does. Maybe the kid's got hot chocolate and whipped cream and you're drinking a coffee, but you're doing it together in those cups with that thermos or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's
it
the
is. It
pictures you
is.
paint. It's just and that takes people back to those experiences. If they had them, or if they want that experience. Like I want that. What it does is there's a cool commercial out right now. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a dad and a son. He starts the kid's like 4 and he's making pancakes. And they kind of tap their forks together. Like they toast each other and he has pancakes.
Right.
Kid gets a little older, he's making pancake. They go buy pancake. Everything's pancakes. Okay. All these different places. And then it's American Express card. The dad buys one time, he's that thing. And then the kid's like college age or maybe a little older. They're sitting down. Dad's got the gray beard. The kid like, it's really cool. They got the pancakes and the kid like takes the phone and pays with the American Express. And his dad just looks at him and he's like, and they tap the forks. Dude, that's a
Oh,
powerful commercial, man. It's like you watch them grow up in like 45 seconds and that connection like that. Dude, it chokes me up, man. It's like that. That's powerful stuff,
yeah. Yeah.
for our credit card.
And
Okay.
it's so simple. Like you said, it's so simple and like you said, it's so powerful that essentially what's happening is there's something that they're connecting in common with. It could be a pancake, it could be a fishing trip or
Right.
fishing trips, it could be a go-kart racing, it could be baseball games. But then you're introducing this product that is a part of the transaction in the story is the American Express card, and the dad is using it, dad is using it, dad's using it. And then what does the son want when he grows up? He wants to be
Be
like
like, is it?
dad. He wants to be like his dad. And so what is he going to do when he becomes like dad? Is the shared thing that they're doing, now he's going to take control. Now he's going to be the one placing the order at the table, paying for the bill, whatever.
He
That's
takes
the
a
American Express.
baton, he grabs the baton, and he continues the race.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
what it is. They've handed
That's
off
the
the
pass
baton
off.
that and there he goes. Real.
That's the pass
I'm
off.
telling you,
And
that's a great commercial.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful because that's what they do with Nike with, and they said this if you watch the movie, was it called Big Air? It's got like Matt Damon and Ben
Yeah, yeah,
Affleck
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff, man.
yeah.
Amazing movie. Is he? And he said we just need you in our shoes. Please, we need you in our shoes because when we're not selling the shoe, we're selling your greatness, and they can get a taste of that greatness by buying and putting on the shoes. So it's interesting when you see Michael Jordan, one of the most talented basketball players of all time, and he's running up and he slam dunks it or he does a a twist shot or whatever. It's twist shot. There's no such thing as a twist shot. It's not like an idiot, but
There is now. There is now.
yeah, there is now. When he's doing like a layup and he's doing these impossible jump shots and stuff, and he's getting fouled, and it's an and one, and all these things he's doing, and just defying all the odds, and he's become this champion. Well, what shoes are he's wearing? He's wearing the Nikes. And now I put them on my feet. Guess what? Boom. Now I can be like him too. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think that's the simplest things. But let's give a really, because, I think the biggest thing is people say, well, how can I do this myself with my company? I sell thumbtacks. Okay. You can do it 1,000 different ways. But let's give one that hits home for like my brother with the lawn treatment, right? So when you treat your grass is green. That's half the curb appeal of a home is right. The grass is green, the house looks better. If the grass looks like crap, the house kind of looks like crap too. Okay, hand in hand, they're together. But that's not the main point. The main point is that when your grass looks green and your little kid daughter, whose name is Sarah, and she's 3 years old, and then you have your little year and a half golden retriever, and they're out there playing, bouncing around through the grass. It's beautiful and it's luscious and it's green. And then she runs up on the swing set and she slides down the slide, and then your wife comes out and hugs you. And there's this whole experience that only comes with green grass. What if the grass was like a barren desert? Do you think it would be the
Right.
same thing? No, it wouldn't be the same thing. And so you're not selling this green grass.
That's
You're
right.
selling this
Outcomes.
experience,
Outcomes.
outcomes,
Right.
transformations.
This is what it is. It's nothing. It's so important to grab that. And I'm gonna take the challenge. Thumbtacks. Want to know how
Okay,
you sell
thumbtacks.
thumbtacks? So here's how we're going to sell thumbtacks. Okay. What you're going to do is we'll go the dad, father, mother, daughter. Like, how you got pinup boards? So you got a little thing, they put your pictures and all that stuff. Well, the daughter starts sticking a lot, makes little designs. Then the mother starts making designs with these thumbtacks. And now they're creating little faces and they're creating the next thing. And they're doing all this with this particular thumbtack. Right. And they're putting stuff up around, but what's the experience? Mother, daughter had this in common. They're making it as she gets older. And then you see what? She's got her kids. They're starting to play with the thumbtacks. Same principle. Like they're creating these really good, she gets these really sophisticated designs. Now they're buying just bulletin boards to make designs on, taking pictures, that's their thing they're sharing. Now the daughter's off to college. She's got a bulletin board in her dorm room. She's making and sending the picture to her mom. Look what I made, that connection. Right.
Right.
And then she gets married and then she has a baby and they're doing the same thing. And she's teaching her just like the pancake thing. Right. Thumbtacks, but
Yeah.
it's this thumbtack.
Yeah.
It's the same thumbtack or what, you know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
idea. It has nothing to
It's
do with how sharp the thumbtack is.
right. Right.
It doesn't matter. And so I love it.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I see yeah, it's an incredible thing because then your brain, the benefit of the doubt, the voice in your head that says, nah, that I could just go buy any thumbtack from a dollar store or whatever. But what's gonna happen is the next time you see that brand, I don't know of a thumbtack brand that's I can think of the top of my head, so maybe they should do this commercial, or this marketing and this branding. But let's just say that it's Bing. Like I think like was the ink pen that
Yeah.
they make the ink pens Bing or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's just say it's Bing. Well, the next time I see that name, the next time I see that little logo, and they make the thumbtacks, I'm gonna think about that commercial. I'm gonna think about that feeling. So whenever I go to buy a thumbtack the next time, I'm gonna instantly think about that, and I'm gonna gravitate towards that because again, we all want to be a part of the story.
Right.
And how do we do that? We have to buy the products that align with
Yeah.
it.
It's going to fill a void. That product is going to fill a void. You're not really going to know it, but that comfort of watching that show, just like the pancake one and stuff, is like, I want to go have some pancakes. Like, see, my kids, so I have 6 kids. Every year, each one of them, okay, they're all within like 3.5 years of each other, but we go to breakfast every year. So whoever birthday it is goes with me on their birthday or the day or two after, whatever before, and we go have breakfast. Now they're all in their upper teens and 20s, right? But we have that. That was always the thing. It was me and my kids. It's just dad and whoever it was. If I got twins, I took them both, or I take them individual. I got the same thing. So it's that memory. It's that. Now, when they see a commercial, okay, with that, like the pancake thing, right? They're not seeing that stuff now. I care less. They're 19. They could care less about that stuff. But later, they're going to go, oh, man, that's what my dad used to always do. We go to Denny's. We always go to Denny's and he lets me get this and all this kind of stuff, and whatever. So it's that. It's just from the business perspective. Again, that's what we're creating. That's what and it doesn't matter what your product or service is. And this is what I work with people all the time. You have to think differently on this. It
Yeah.
has to be able to think like, what really is the outcome? Just like my strategic vision, how is each person on the team the hero in that part of the journey? Like you were saying,
Right.
how are
Right.
they? So when they read that, they go, I'm a hero. Okay. As a coach, as a business advisor, business coach, I'm only the guide. I am never the
Yeah.
hero.
Yeah.
My clients are the hero. I will make them a hero. Okay. I'm just here to make sure they get on the path and get there sooner
Yep.
and better
That's
and
it.
faster and
That's
all that
it.
stuff. And I'm not looking for any glory. That's for
Right.
them. I just want to make sure they get there.
Yeah.
So it's those
That,
kind of things we have to package.
and that is the difference between being the smartest person in the room and making everybody else feel like they're the smartest person in the room. That's the difference. Is the that God mentality of, like you said, you're gonna make them the hero. It's this. I don't want to look like the smartest person in the world. When I get done talking to you, I want you to feel like you're the smartest person in the room. I want you to feel like you're the smartest person in the world. I want you to feel like the most successful person in the world. And that, like you said, that is the God and that is the hero. And the people that can do that, and they do it at a bigger scale, politically wise, they do it at massive scales all the time. Is they're not the hero. They make you the hero. They make you feel like you make the difference, that you matter, that you're the purpose. Right? Because who cares if one person goes in there and is like, I'm the most important thing in the world and I'm here to save everybody. Okay, well, that's pretty boring because now what can I do? I'm useless.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
garbage.
you feel indebted.
Yeah.
You feel indebted to this person. You're like an indentured servant now because they're so
Yeah.
good.
Because if Superman showed up tomorrow, what would you? How could you compete? How could you be in the story? You would basically be like, I'm a slave at this point because anything that they want to do, it's
Until I open my box with the kryptonite in it. I go, what do you think of this, buddy? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. Get on your knees. You know, so
okay. That was
I
a
got
good
my
one.
ways. I got my
That was a
ways.
good one. That was a good one. Richard, it's so funny you told that joke. That's so funny. One of the things I've been working on, because sometimes I get a little too carried away in this stuff, and what I figured out that matters a lot is people want to, and we've already established that they want to align with the story. They want to have purpose. But what people also want to do is people want to laugh. People want to have fun. People want to enjoy their time. They just don't always know how to do it. And so one of the things I figured out is a great way to do that is I read one-liner jokes every day. I read with my enunciation and my vocabulary. I read new words that are maybe I'll use them, maybe I won't, but it gives me a better understanding. So these little bitty things, but this joke is so funny. I read this; it popped up at this would have been 2 hours ago. It says, "Never criticize someone until you have walked a mile in their shoes. That way, when you criticize them, you'll be a mile away and you'll have their shoes." It is so stupid,
Yeah.
but it's so clever to where, what was the one-liner that I had? There's so many I've been reading. Again, these are not my jokes, but like I was taking photos at the Phoenician, some clients, and this older guy, was laughing at one of his buddies, and he walked past me. It was just the most powerful thing. He grabbed my shoulder and he leaned in and he lowered his voice and he said, "Good friends, they delete." And then he looked at me and we just started busting out laughing and he walked away. So powerful, so simple, so simple. So that's one of the things I think with our habits, because I think that habits outweigh and beat everything else in our lives 1,000 times. Like I could read a book on how to do anything, but until I turn it into a daily habit, a weekly habit, a monthly habit, into goals, who cares? It's not even going to happen. So that's what, with our phones, what's amazing is I dismiss the notifications from all social media. I only check that at certain times, but all of these notifications, I have them on loud. So that way, when it pops up this joke, I'm like, I read that. I'm like, that was really funny. I could use that. Or if this is not that funny, can't use it.
Yeah, it's prioritized, right? I removed all
Yeah.
social media from my phone. So I don't have any, so I have obviously email and whatever, but I don't have notifications because it doesn't matter to me, because I got to be focused. I am that guy Jake, if I'm listening to like your podcast or let's go with Sean Ryan. Everything's 3.5, 4 hours long, right? The
Yeah,
podcast, I can only listen.
you're
I can't
present.
do it. I can't do anything else.
Yeah, you're
So if
present.
you ever see me just sitting in a chair staring ahead, I'm probably listening to a podcast. I'm not doing dishes. I'm not working on something. I can't do that. My son can. He can compartmentalize and do things and listen and still
I'm trying to work
retain.
on
I
that.
cannot.
I'm trying to work on that because I was listening to. It's funny. It's so funny you said that because I was watching Jack Black last night talk on a podcast, like a comedy podcast, and I was sitting there for in about 10 minutes. I was present for just 10 minutes. I was present, not on my phone, not talking. I was just absorbed, and then boom, I was back into reality, and I had 1,000 distractions and a bazillion things going through my mind, and I have the present thing. That's one thing I need to work on. It's very powerful, but it comes and goes for me. A couple weeks ago, I was in the climbing gym. I climbed for 2.5 hours. It felt like 5 minutes. In the best way, though. It didn't feel like it went by and I was like, oh my God, where'd my time go? It was, I lost track of time.
That's
I
a good
lost
thing.
track of it.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
it's a good thing because what is the one thing that we do when we're kids is we don't keep track of time. We just la 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 la. We're present. We're present. We're not thinking about anything else except for what we're doing. So thinking, okay, if I can create these systems, and these are the systems, is a schedule. A calendar is a system. Is I'm going to do this at this time. I'm going to do this at this time. I'm going to lie this time. That's a system. I'm gonna create the systems at 6 o'clock. I'm going to the climbing gym, and at 8 o'clock I have to leave. Okay, well between that time, don't think about anything else.
That's right.
Just
That's
think
it.
about climbing. Just enjoy yourself because you know when the timer goes off on your phone, it's like, oh, time's up. It's like, oh, okay, well that was fun. That was cool. I don't know, just the eliminating the distractions in our life and trying to be present. That is a very challenging thing to do, but it's very powerful because you it recharges you because your brain is not having to work on crap.
Yeah, I listen to 2 podcasts a week without fail. Only 2. Only 2 get my I'll listen to more,
Yeah.
but there's 2 that I never miss. Okay. And it's like one's on a Wednesday, so I listen to it Thursday morning, the one's on a Friday, listen to it Saturday morning in my early morning time. But I've dedicated I just sit like in the dark and listen to it,
Right.
sipping my mushroom coffee. You know what I mean? It's like that's just what
Hey, yeah.
that's what I do, but I take everything out of it. You know what I mean? I didn't miss a section. I mean, I go from the intro to the outro. Okay, I give it all to them. You know what I mean? But that's why I don't listen to 10 podcasts because I can't commit. I will if I have time or there's someone I really want to hear, I'll do that and pick up some new information. But I think, like you're saying, I'm very singular minded in my focus. So I'm not a believer in multitasking. I think it's an ineffective method. It's a lot of nothing gets done. It's a lot of things get started. I'm a finisher.
Distractions.
I'm a finisher. So multitasking doesn't work very well for me because I need that sense of accomplishment. I
Right.
need to finish. When I coach clients, I have a saying, we get paid for done. That's what we
I
get
like
paid for.
that.
You don't get paid till you're done. Not you have a little to go. Can I get a check? No, done. You're there's nothing to do. Okay. They're
Yeah,
happy. You're out. It's good.
that that's so fascinating because I think that in the creative space is that I have the false excuse and the sense that with creativity, there it's so loose, it's so fluid that I could do it a bazillion different ways. So I had this excuse in my head that like, okay, we're never really done. I could do that. I could do that. But yes, you did. Did you accomplish the main goal? Did the hero make it from here to here? Did the story look closed? Did we do that? And if the answer is yes, then that's done. There's no more thinking about it. No more. Maybe do a different story. And so I had this idea because I say that I might look at something for 3 hours and I'm like back and forth, back and forth. It's like, dude, just get it done, like you said. And I love that because who was it that Donald Trump was talking to Elon Musk and he said something that was really powerful that I thought, regardless of his political views, it doesn't matter. It's amazing when you listen to people that get stuff done, whether it's good or bad, whether you agree with it or not. It's amazing to watch people that get stuff done versus people that don't get stuff done. Trump has erected buildings up in New York, almost an impossible feat. Like I would, I don't say never could do that, but I mean, think about the insurmountable obstacle of getting a giant high rise built in New York City. Oh my God! And now he becomes president, and then he gets how many times did he get impeached? How many felony accounts did he get? And he became president again because he said, "I'm going to be president again. And I'm not taking no for an answer." And so when I thought about that, I thought about what Elon Musk he said there's a lot of people who have a lot of great ideas and do a lot of great things, but not a lot of people who get stuff done. And he said he gets it done. And
Right.
I thought, man, That is
I'm
so
telling you,
powerful.
yeah,
It is
that's what it
so
is, man. It's
powerful.
so those open-end things, people don't get things finished. It drives me insane.
That drives me insane. Yeah, too.
On my on
For
that
myself, because I do it to
right.
myself.
I had another thing too on that podcast with my son. We were talking about, we train, he's a runner and all, and I'm a coach. I'm like, the finish line. If you take your foot off the gas, even the tiniest bit, I don't care if you're one step from the line, you will pay. Okay. I
Yeah,
will thrash you until you bleed. Okay. Like you run through the finish line, right? It's
yeah,
not, I'm in the lead, I'll slow down across. If I see that, I don't care if he just broke a world record. If you did not go through the finish line at top speed, okay, you'll Benson's burpees till you
yeah,
bleed. I'm telling you, because it's finishing strong that matters.
yeah,
Okay. There's, the great saying, there's many starters, very few finishers, right? But it's how you finish. It's not just finishing. It's really what you're taking to the finish line with you.
yeah.
My thing with my son, like, if there's someone to be passed, we pass them right on that end. Doesn't matter. And I tell people, I don't care if you're racing for 80th place. You finish like a champion.
Strong.
Push all the way
Yeah,
through. It doesn't matter. This is about you, and getting
yeah.
stuff done.
And like I said, we talked about just now, like I am such a hypocrite with when it comes to the getting stuff done, and that's why I just said it's like it's one of those things where I have this false sense and I lie to myself like, oh well, you could just keep it open and keep it working. No, just get it done. What the one thing that's amazing, and we do it. Life is so fascinating. There's just so many avenues and revenues. It's just endless. We do so many things so well in certain areas, and we do so many things so badly in other areas, and just figuring out like what are the things that I could do in these areas to improve? And a lot of times it's like we said, the simplest things. It's just the simplest things make the biggest difference. And I thought about that with you said with rock climbing. I did a rock climbing competition on Saturday, and it was basically just climb for 3 hours to do as many climbs as you possibly could. And I'd scored eighth place out of like 100 contestants. I knew I met a guy who had scored like third place, and I've been sick for 2 days because of it. And I thought maybe I climbed too hard. Maybe I should have, because I got back from traveling and I had the allergies. And that was my thing. I was like, no, that was amazing, because those times when you feel like maybe you've overdone it, what's going to happen is your body is going to listen to that and then avoid that pain in the future. But instead, if you just say, that sucked, and but it's going to help me to grow stronger. I could go on and on and on about this stuff. It's sometimes I don't think that life needs to be easier. I think that we just need to be harder. I
Yeah.
think,
You're
without
absolutely right.
losing our sanity, of course.
Yeah.
I think your generation, I was just thinking about when you said never let off the gas until you cross the finish line and you punched through it. I think your generation, life was so much harder to where the wolf was on your heels. It was nipping. It's like, I'm right there. You stop, you slow down, I'm gonna kill you. And that was your generation, because life was like cutthroat. Everything was hard, everything was tough. You get off work, there was no air conditioning, and maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. You're just stressed out because you haven't heard from your friend and he doesn't have a cell phone, and you gotta wait. And it's like, I waited 3 hours, man. Where were you? And there was miscommunication. I wanted to learn this piece of information, so I had to go drive all the way to the library and read it for hours. I couldn't find what I wanted. There was all this stress and all this, like, once we figured out, we just got to get it done. Whereas now, the wolf isn't on our heels anymore. It's the thing is, it's falsely, it's still there. It's just a little bit further behind us. But we don't have that sense of like, oh yeah, I could slow down just a little bit. I mean, he's not that far. He's
You
not that
know,
close to me.
we're talking about art and kind of your thing. And I use my example when I'm doing sculpture work. What I did is I became better. Okay. You all started awful. That's everyone's starting point. Just so
Yeah,
everyone knows, when you do something new,
terrible,
you get to start at awful.
which is
We're all
great.
in the same place. Regardless of skill down, we're all at awful. Then we go from there, right? So I'm making cool stuff. Even my first stuff is pretty cool. It's selling is big and all this stuff. But then a couple years after, I remember a client comes to one of my big shows at Navy Pier downtown Chicago, and he's looking at my stuff and he goes, you know what? Your art has really evolved. It's become so simple. Like, so what I did was like how, less is more, right? It's like if I'm doing a steel tree, this big old 50-foot thing, I can't, how many leaves are on a tree? Okay, a lot.
Thousands. Yeah.
Tens of thousands. Okay. Am I going to do tens of thousands? No, I'm going to put 3 leaves. 3 leaves. It's a tree. You know what I mean? Like and you do it right, of course, but how I did things I had to learn when to stop.
I
I had to
see.
learn when finish is. That's a even bigger takeaway than running all the way through the line, right? Which I agree with, but what is done?
Mm,
What is finished? You have to understand and define that. You have to know when this is enough. Because the
yeah,
thing my wife would ask me is like, well, why are you doing that? Like no one's gonna know. I go, well, two things. I'll know. Okay. I'm on doing weld bead texture, looks like bark and all this stuff. I said, you have to understand who I'm actually doing this for is my peers. I'm going to be judged. I don't care if Jake, you come and see my thing, you say it's amazing. Well, you don't weld, you don't do
sure,
any of this stuff. I
right.
mean, I appreciate the compliment, but does Richie, the guy who they fly around the world welding everything, comes and says this is amazing, dude?
I see.
I'm like that's the compliment I'm talking about 20 years later. Still,
I see what you're saying because I talk, yeah, oh yeah, that's so powerful because I've been bouldering for since May of last year, end of May last year. I'm starting to do some V6s and slow like soft V7s. And one of the climbers that I know who's doing like V12s and stuff outdoors, he told me, he said, dude, you're crushing it. And I just thought, wow, that was the most powerful thing that anybody said to me in that community because like you said, I didn't think about that, but when it comes from the peers, it means so much. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know where to go with that, but I think that
well,
that is,
we're always measuring ourselves. This is the point. When you're in business, you're providing a product, service, you have an art, you're bringing something to the world. We all judge ourselves. Okay. We're all looking for validation on what we're doing. Now, the lady wanted to come halfway through. She didn't get validation. She wasn't very happy with a pipe welded to another pipe. But when I'm done, I'm the master. Okay, that's pretty cool. I think all my stuff's published. They did 4-page spreads of me and Practical Welding Today. Practical Welding Today. They did a 4-page spread. And I'm like, I taught myself how to weld.
that's
Like
awesome.
I'm in this trade magazine, like this whole thing. I'm like, this is so cool. People talk to me. I'm like, but that's the validation. Like you put me in there, 4 pages in their magazine. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like I loved it, but it's like, okay, I'm somebody.
Well, what I would like to say real quick to this is so fascinating is that I was on the phone call yesterday for 30 minutes talking to Zach. He owns a branding agency. I've had him on the podcast, and we're gonna start working together soon. And I said, you know what I love about life right now is that we've been talking for 30 minutes and we haven't gossiped about one person. We haven't complained about one thing. All we've been talking about is how do we improve? How do we get better? How do we solve? How do we fix? How do we make? Being a creator, like a creator meaning that you take something, you make something. And it's amazing. Like we've been talking for over an hour now, and we haven't been complaining and whining about the mishaps of the misfortunes and the world is this and the economy is this and well this thing. We've just been talking about innovative ideas and thoughts and processes and concepts. And it's amazing because I find that so fascinating because my life early on was not that. It was the opposite. It was complain about the neighbor, gossip about the people down the street. And what I realized is that they say these things that words are power, but what does that even mean? Like what does that even mean? Words are power. Like define power, right? Like I don't know what you're talking about, but what it is that your brain and your processing power of your brain of who you are, your soul can only do so much in a day. And so when you complain about other people and the mishaps of the economy in a serious tone, I think the one-liner jokes about things going wrong, like that dark humor, is fantastic. It's a great way to make light heart of something that's more serious that you can't change. If the ship is sinking and you're on it, make a joke about it, dude, because you're not going to keep the ship afloat. You're
That's
going
right.
down. But it's this when you complain about other people and bad things and the envy and oh that guy he's such a jerk. He's got a Bugatti. I wish I had that. And he probably doesn't deserve that. He probably rips people off. And all your energy is just being channeled into nothing that's going to help you. How are you going to build something with this? But if you instead say, well, oh well, he's got a Bugatti. I wonder how he's doing that. Okay, what is he wearing? Okay, I see the shoes, I see the pants, I see the shirts. How much do those cost? Oh, I can't afford that. Is there a brand that's like maybe I can look like that? Okay, but there's more than that. The way he's talking, he just shook that guy's hand, he grabbed his elbow. There's something there, and you're just constantly dissecting everything because they say success leaves clues. And if you're just breaking down everything, the clothes, the tone, the looks, the energy, the smiles, the text backs, the emails, the durations, I mean everything. You're just obsessive with it. You're like, okay, now I get it. It was all the simplest little things that made the massive difference.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about who you're around, who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
You're around problem solvers, creators. Creators are just problem solvers. That's all they are.
Yes.
And
I
we're
love it.
creating stuff. So you and I can sit here and spend an hour plus talking about things that we did, how we overcame them, or what you can do, how you take thumbtacks and make them cool. Who's doing that? Right? You don't want to spend time on that, but we can, right? Because there's you can do that with it. That's why it's all a challenge. I do that with businesses, right? That's what I do. Well, you're not understanding your niche. Let's really hone your niche and then we'll speak to them. You're trying to
Right.
speak to everybody.
Right.
Everybody doesn't want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Okay. There's only certain people that want to hear from you. There's only certain people who want to hear from me. There's people that I could never coach because they don't like me. And I'm okay with that. And
Yeah.
there's
And that,
there's
I
clients
think,
I've fired because I don't like them. They're not
right.
getting the work done, so I fire them. But that's okay. It's all
Yeah.
good.
That is that, and I apologize. I was kind of driving too hard. There's naivety in the wanting to be liked by everybody, and we all do that. And it feels good to be liked by everybody. Who wouldn't like to be liked? But
Me.
there's also, if you're liked by everything, then you must not be doing it right. Because if
You're
I
doing
heard it
nothing.
best,
You're doing nothing of consequence. If
yeah,
you're liked
yeah,
by everybody, you are doing nothing of consequence.
right.
You are the epitome of mediocrity.
Yeah,
That's what you
which is
are.
so dangerous. Yeah, this is gonna sound preposterous that I say this, but I think you'll get what I'm saying. I would rather be dirt poor or filthy rich, but I would not want to be in the middle. And I say that because mediocre is the worst place because things are not good enough to be great and they're not bad enough to be terrible. And so what do you really feel? It's just this numb flat line across. Whereas if you're broke poor and you get a new pair of shoes from the thrift store for $15 and you're like, wow, these are actually really expensive shoes and I got them. This is amazing. You feel that like that
Different
jolt of
gratitude.
excitement.
Yeah, there's different
It's
gratitude.
gratitude. And then
Yeah.
if you're rich and you buy a Lamborghini like it's nothing, it's a toy, and you enjoy it for only 6 months, who cares? But you still had that spike. Whereas mediocre, it's like, yeah, I got to take the boat out this weekend and I didn't really enjoy it because I just have just enough money to barely buy it and I don't have enough money to really enjoy it. And so that when I say, and I'm not just focusing, again, I don't want to just get locked up on the money here. But the concept of that is, and the only way to get to that, I think, is to really stay in the lane of focus on what you're doing. For me, for the first time in my life, and this is amazing, you'll love this. I have a terrible spending habit, and I say terrible. I'm gonna rephrase that into an incredible, amazing spending habit on camera gear and related stuff. I spend every dime I own, and I will max out credit cards and pay them off on camera gear. And I say that because I have a goal. When I say max out credit cards, I have the money. I just move it from one account to another. But what I was saying is instead of saying, "Oh, I wonder if I should buy this," and "Should I really feel bad about this?" Well, that's who I am. This aligns with my goal. Now, what I will feel terrible about is, I don't know. Let's just say I bought a limited edition books that I'm never going to read, and it was $1,000 because it has a signature on it. I'm going to feel terrible about that. I'm not a collector. That's
Yeah.
not my thing.
Yep.
If you are a
Yep.
collector, great for you. But for me, it's the tools that I need. If you have a woodworking shop and you spend all your money on saws and drills and planers and the shelves and the storage, that's great because that aligns with who you are. It's your purpose. But if you're a wood shop owner and you buy the biggest, latest gaming PC with a zero gravity chair and you're floating upside down shooting Fortnite guys for $20,000, you probably should feel like crap because that's not who you are. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of this interesting thing of money is just a tool to help you get to where you want to be, and it needs to align, and it all comes to alignment.
Well, I think money exposes your character.
It does a lot.
You know what I mean?
It really does.
It really does. I mean,
It
I have
really does.
6 kids to prove it. Okay, they're all different. They all been working for a long. I mean, they all make their own money. They done really well, and some have some don't. Okay,
Yeah.
one has $15,000 in tools by the time he was 17. Okay, but those are an asset. He's got
Yeah.
tools. He got toolboxes. He'll have those, and it's all Milwaukee tools, and he gets to take that. Rest of his life will have those. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
Buy more because I want to use some. So
Yeah.
it's just, they're in my garage. I love it. But it's that thing, and it really defines a character. When you go back to the mediocre stuff, I mean, you reach mediocrity. Like I tell people, you reach average when you wake up. If the eyes open, I mean, you don't even have to get off the pillow. If your eyes open in the morning, you have hit average. You're an average individual. You're mediocre. That's mediocrity. Okay. If I can't, and I'm hard on this, but when I wake up, you know what I do? I get out of bed. I don't hit snooze alarms. I don't roll around. I don't think I am out. I am on
Got
the
it.
floor going into the ritual begins, right? There's no slow approach to the morning. Yeah, I'm a morning guy. I've been doing this since I was a kid. I'm a 4 a.m. guy 7 days a week. I do all this. I have a morning ritual I go through, but I just feel like if you don't want to get out of bed, okay, that's when you check yourself.
Mm,
What am I not doing? Why am I living this mediocre life? Because a
yeah.
mediocre life doesn't want to get out of bed.
Right.
It's warm, it's comfortable, and whatever. Like no, I don't want that. I want to get out and I want to go.
Got it.
I want to do the things I do in the morning. I want to get to the gym. I want to get my workout in, get home, continue the day, get to my office, make things happen, coach people, train people, help them succeed. I want to do that every day. I train my kids, I'll take them and I'll do that. I want to be moving forward and moving somebody else forward with me.
Yeah.
That's where I want to be. So people really have to check themselves, Jake, and I don't care if you say you're a night bird, whatever, like that morning, if you got things to do, just get up and do it.
Right.
Just do it.
It's interesting because there's so many intuitive ways to try to problem solve and figure that out. Like for instance, for me, I never enjoyed waking up in the mornings. I used to wake up in the mornings in the military all the time, 4:45, and then we do like first shift, second shift, third shift, and you just adapted. It became normal. It's kind of one of those things that where if I told you you owed $10,000 in taxes and you didn't have $10,000, you'd find $10,000. You make a way to figure out how to make it happen. And so for me, in the mornings when I wake up, I am such a slow waker to where I wake up, I'm just like, get the hell away from me. I am just like, who am I? Where every single morning, I don't even know what existence is. I wake up, I'm like, who am I? What is this body? Like, I'm just out of it. I'm out of it. And so what I figured out is I have this bad tendency in the way I wake up in the morning to grab my phone and then,
Oh yeah,
social media. But what I figured out is that instead of doing that, we're going to take baby steps. What I started doing is, and I'm really, really proud of it, is for the last 4 months, I have woken up at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. in that time frame, right? Because I usually go to sleep at like 1 or 2. I'm usually a little bit working longer than 1, but it beats the hell out of when I was going to bed at like 5 a.m. working, which is ridiculous. But when I wake up in the morning, it aligns with my goals. I'm into filmmaking. So I turn on a short film made by local people or small production, whatever. It's nothing that's like, oh, I can't do this because it's the Avengers. It's simple stuff. It's a little short 15-minute film. And I put my phone, I don't touch it, and I turn on the short film from Vimeo, and I watch it, and I focus, and I try to be present. Like I'm waking up, and this is my world right here. And as soon as the film's over, I'm wide awake. I'm like, oh, I'm up. And here we go. And it's like the most amazing transition because it's helping me. I don't know. Bad habits. How do I say this? You know how they say just don't smoke cigarettes, don't drink alcohol, it's bad for you. But then somehow you wind up just doing it anyways. And then for me, I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't smoke, do alcohol, marijuana, anything for the last several months. And I'm so happy, except for I told you I'm in the phone because of my grandfather passing, but that's just a temporary thing. Is how come I don't need those things or want those things anymore? What changed in my life to where I'm happy enough to where I don't need to fill that void? And I'm still trying to figure that out. But what I think it is instead of saying, oh, well, you need to stop drinking alcohol, I think it's more of you need to figure out how to live your purpose, how to be fired up in the mornings, how to enjoy yourself. Because when you're doing that, you're going to be so busy doing that, you're not going to want the other things anymore.
Yeah,
You're not bored.
Yeah, I think also I look at it from my standpoint. I'm like, well, why do I want to deaden my senses? Why do I want to alter my brain? What is so bad in my life that I have to escape it with weed, with drinking, with whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, so I don't have any of those vices, because I like look at it and and I used to drink fine wine, love fine
I used
wine,
to drink
right?
a lot.
And occasional really good martini, right? I used to do that stuff,
Yeah.
but with a cigar. No, I don't do any of that stuff anymore, right? I kind of don't drink at all. But I looked at it like, well, I don't want that. I got purpose on workout. I want to do this. I have these goals. I have this stuff, and it's not really serving me, and you're an influence. When you reach a certain level, and I'll say whether that's age, your level of wisdom, your level of influence in business, and you're coaching people like to me, I have a responsibility.
Yeah. You
Okay.
do. You
People
do.
seeing me drink Okay. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink too much. I could have a drink. But what about the guy who does and he sees me have the one, he goes, well, it must be okay.
Yeah.
And then he goes off the cliff
Yeah.
because he saw me, do that. Like I've seen pastors do that from the podium. Talk about how great this wine is and this, and they're like, dude, you're talking to 500 people, 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Someone out here they got a problem. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, addiction, big thing. And you're like saying it's okay. And I'm just
Yeah.
saying there's a responsibility
Right.
that I take on myself. It's a responsibility I have
I like
not
that.
to do that, So, and with
I
kids
like
and everything
that.
else too, they, more is caught than taught. They're going to do what they see you do.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I think what you're saying is more into, well, two things. You've lost the desire. And what's more important than doing the thing or not doing the thing is the why, the desire, the feel, the fire. That is the most important thing. So if you've lost, it's not that, if somebody says, oh, I don't drink alcohol, but then they have to explain, well, every now and then when I go to a party on a Saturday, I'm doing social drinking, I'll have a beer. But let's not get hung up in those details. Let's get hung up in the desire. You're not coming home from work
Exactly.
and cracking 2 cold beers because you're dying thirsty for it. It's more of I'll do whenever I want or whenever it happens, but I really don't have a desire to do it. It's fun and that's great, but that's the why. That's the desire, which is really important. And then back to the influence thing I was thinking about that earlier was what really looks really good on camera, what looks really good and moody is cigarettes. When you have a dude and he's a hard dude and he's sitting there and he lights up and it illuminates his face and the cigarette, it's like, okay, that looks amazing on camera. But now the problem is now people want to smoke because they want to align with that. They want to be like that. And I noticed it was the same thing with me when I was smoking cigarettes more. It was because there was a social media influencer who was incredible. He would have cigarettes because he was creating moody videos. And he wasn't promoting smoking directly or intentionally, if you will. But back to the storytelling we told earlier, I was trying to align with him. And how do I do that?
That's
Gotta smoke the cigarette.
the whole story of Juul, the vape. If you've seen that documentary.
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh man, you should watch it. I mean, they give you some
I'm gonna
ideas, but so
pull that
Juul
up.
is that first, they created the first vape basically,
Yep.
right?
It's
Really,
like the rectangular thing.
yeah, the whole thing, and then they did flavors. Then they saw they marketed it to kids, right? Because regularly, yeah, it was the whole influencer thing. Like, that was the whole thing. I mean, fascinating documentary on that. Really fascinating on the whole thing. But they get into the whole thing, the experience of smoking when you're around people. It's not the smoking, it's the experience. And they do the whole thing. Again, from a business angle, you look at it and go, it's pretty smart, but like everyone's addicted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I like to think there's got to be a little conscience involved. What are we really doing here? Oh, yes, there isn't smoke, but there's just 4,000 chemicals that directly go into your body, right? Like, and you're worried about a vaccine and you're vaping over here. You know what I mean? So it's like, come on now. You know what I mean? So but when you see it and you see people put this, that's why they stopped cigarette ads. Back in the day when I was a kid, you had cigarette ads.
Yeah.
People were drinking whiskey. You can't show them drinking. You'll see everyone with a beer, but no one drinks it.
Can't drink.
Right? So like, how stupid is that? It's like, really? Like, so some kid, some 16-year-old's going, well, yeah, they don't drink it. They just hold it. If I just hold it, I'll be really cool. I don't need to drink it. Yeah, sure. They're not going to drink it, right? It's kind of stupid. But the cigarette thing, like you're saying, you look cool. Every star had it. You look at I don't even know the name of the shows, but they're happening in the 50s and 60s, and you're seeing this stuff, and they're smoking, and it brings this stuff back. People want to emulate those who they adorn. Okay,
that's the alignment. The alignment is when I like I said, I got onto the sense of this concept a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was a couple of months ago now, about alignment, and it didn't make sense to me. I was like, oh my God, the reason why we do anything and everything is we want to align with the story, with the vision, with that idea. We want to fit into it. And I think that's incredibly, incredibly powerful to understand. I told my girlfriend, I said, no matter how smart I think I am, how wise I think I am, how above the world I think I am, you put me in a bad environment within 6 months, I will be the biggest piece of crap ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say that in a humble way, but it's a bit dramatic. Of course, I'm not going to just stoop down to some killer. But what I'm saying is you put me in an environment and within 6 months, I will be complaining about people. I will be pessimistic. I will be negative.
It's people
Give
search
me
for the
6
negative.
months.
People search for the negative. It's so easy to pull someone off a chair instead of lift them up onto a chair, right?
Yeah.
Way easier to pull you down. And this
Yeah.
happens. So I use a lot of biblical references. Okay. If you take the Old Testament, the history of the Jews is that it's in God's graces. Then they marry other people, and then they go their direction. They start worshiping other gods. They start having idols, doing this. Then they get punished. They get saved. Then they do it again and again and again. Okay, there's no escaping that pull to the negative, right? That's why who you're around matters.
Right. Right.
I don't swear anymore because a friend called me out one day on it, and I just like, he's looking at language. I was out of my mind, right? So it's just the F word every word.
And you were a Marine too. I mean, that's a
right. I have that too, but that was, but that call out, and that was like, when was that? 96?
That's when I was born. Imagine that.
Stop. Well, then, so good. You were born and I stopped swearing. We got those two amazing things. That's alignment right there, buddy.
See, okay. That's the clever one-liners I'm talking about right there. Those clever.
That's it. I'm full of them. But it was that, and I stopped. I mean, it took time, right?
Right.
But and now people are like, it's just what I do. So I do a podcast, and I'm swearing. I ask people to refrain from it, but it's who I surround myself with. I surround myself with other people who don't. I can't stop people from doing it. It doesn't bother me.
Right.
I don't get all offended.
Right.
I kind of make fun of them. I say, well, you're vocabularily challenged. You don't have any good words. You don't have any other words to fill. I kind of call out my dad once. Like, Dad, like, you got to come up with some new words. Yeah. And so after that, he's just going off one day. And he's like 75. When I told him this, I'm like, did he got to mellow out? But I'm just, I don't care. But it's like, I took it as a challenge. Well, what can I replace those words with? That are actually kind of funny when you hear it. It's kind of like, it gives people that pause because, like, what'd you say?
Yeah, it's this thing that which is what I was saying. I have this thing that pops up, and I'll just pull up the app. I have it on loud, and it pops up, and I have it. It's in here somewhere. Maybe I'll find it quickly, so we're not just waiting around for me to. It's called vocabulary. It's listen to this. Wait, it's connected to the Bluetooth, so it's not gonna play it. But when I play this little sound right here, it pulls up a word, and I can hit the sound to hear how it's enunciated.
Right.
Esurient. If you can hear that, it's esurient, which is hungry, greedy, or eager for something. The esurient student devoured the book, desperate to learn more about the topic. Will I ever use this word or not? I don't know, but it expands your thinking. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool. What's really interesting is most people speak in a third grade vocabulary. It's very, very low, very medium. We all do it. And so it's cool, but when you learn these words, you figure out how to throw in these tactical or strategic jabs of these words that sound big and intuitive stories to where you don't have to ask the awkward question of what does that word mean? You can make it just flows right into it. You know what I mean? If I said like it, the opulence of this hotel, it was so luxurious, it was so rich, it was so wealthy. I threw in that word early on, which makes me sound clever, and it is a clever word.
And then you define it.
Luxury.
And then you define it.
And you're defining it, right. It's because you don't want to have the person ask the awkward question.
That's right.
But it's nice because the phone technology, and this goes into, back to the environment, leading into the opportunity, is the environment is so powerful because we think that we're so smart, we think that we're so clever, and we're so good. We're not. We are a sponge of our environment, to where if you want to be successful, just hang around successful people. If you want to be really broke and poor and miserable and hate your life and everybody around you, hang around those people. Literally just do that. And it's amazing because this leads into the opportunity of 2025 and beyond is, for the first time, when can I ever just sit across and talk to you like this for 2 hours?
Right.
When could this be possible? How many cups of coffee could I say, please, Mr. Walsh, have some coffee. Do you have 5 minutes? I could take some notes from you real quick. You can talk to anybody now, and you can listen in on the podcast. You don't have to open up the studio. You don't have to spend the expenses. You don't have to do all the work. You can literally just, while you're doing your job, while you're going on your run, while you're doing your exercise, while you're walking the dog, turned into podcasts from some of the most intelligent people in the world with unique perspectives and that are relatable and make sense and are intuitive. And you just tap into that, and that becomes like your environment because you're constantly surrounding yourself. It's amazing. One of the things that this book says in this book is so fascinating. This book is called Speak and Be Heard: 101 Vocal Exercises for Voice Actors, Public Speakers, and Professionals. And it has these little exercises in it. But the main takeaway was it started off much like the Air Force earlier. It started off with a history lesson. A long time ago, people used to read out loud. They used to read out loud because not a lot of people knew how to read. And if you were in a crowd of people and you were reading something, like, hey, jerk, like, share with the rest of us, dude. We need some entertainment. I just got done doing 16 hours in the field. I don't know how to read or write. You do. Let me hear a story. And so, but what happened is that happened for a long time. Then we fell into the dark ages. People stopped doing it. And this was like, I think this is all loose. So if you're a history nut or means a lot to you, I'm paraphrasing very loosely. But the story, the main objective is what I want you to get. We fell into the dark ages and people started reading silently, quietly, like we do today. Right? There was a time when people would read aloud, and what the benefit is for you to read aloud? It's not for the listeners. It's for you. The biggest lesson that's said in this book to become a better speaker is to literally just read out loud. Because it focuses on, and they said if you mispronunciate a word, go back and re-enunciate it, right? Re-enunciate it. And the biggest lesson, I think I said enunciate. The biggest way to get better at public speaking is just to speak. Isn't that so simple? Isn't that incredible?
You know what else? A good point to that is when you hear someone, they'll say a word wrong, like you hear them pronounce it wrong. You know what the first thing I think? Some people think, oh, he's not very bright. I go, no, he's a reader.
Yeah.
That guy reads.
Right.
He's seen new words, right? And he's trying to figure them out himself. Maybe it's not perfect, but he's a reader. And if you talk to him, you find out they're a reader. Like my son, he reads 700-page books every week. Got into reading.
Wow.
And he struggled to learn to read in the beginning. And then people would make fun of him and stuff. And all of a sudden, he's a voracious reader. I mean, he reads like it's great, and he writes and all that stuff. So it is very interesting. And you're right about words. All words have meaning, stuff like that. I do simple things too, like. A great example is this, and I know we're all over the place here, but like if you see a really attractive woman, okay, you can say oh yeah, she's cute. Okay, she's cute. Oh yeah, she's good looking. She's beautiful. Okay, she's gorgeous. Okay, each one you're going up a level, right? You're thinking that those are increased compliments. Okay, I'm like, oh, she is magnificent. You call a woman magnificent? Yeah. That's some high praise. Yeah. Okay, way different than cute. Her and your puppy, okay, they're both cute. Okay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you learn to use these words, they're descriptive, right? You learn to use descriptive words when you speak to people, whether it's in a complimentary way or like that elevates the person. Because a word like magnificent, people know what that is. It's not a $10 word. It's a 75-cent word. Okay. Sure. But it's like, man, you are magnificent. That was magnificent. You say stuff like that. That was absolutely spectacular. Like you say things like that to people and like that's some high praise, right? I mean, that's how you build that relationship. You learn how to praise people with the words that fit, right? How you can elevate their, what would that be? Their appraisal of you because what you said to them.
Yeah.
Like if you just go by and you were great. Okay, great's like, you can tell that to everyone.
Yeah. That's such a good point because I've thought about it too. Is if you look at people like Trump, for instance, he will praise people way up. This person is an incredible person. Nobody does it like him. He's absolutely amazing with it. And then he's like, you are, and then when he's trashing people, he's like, you are a dog. You are an idiot. You are stupid. Like he is like no in between, just up and down. And I see that with a lot of successful people is they praise their friends a lot. They're like, my buddy who does the sound design, there's nobody like this guy. Oh my God. I don't know how he does it. It's incredible.
I'm so blessed to work with him, man. Like he makes me look good. If you think I look good, it's because of John.
That's so simple. It's so simple. It's so simple. But again, that's those simple things. And I was going to say, I like to listen to Tommy Mello. He owns A1 Garage Service, and he has a podcast where it's, you know about it?
$1 billion
He,
garage guy.
yeah, yeah, the $1 billion garage guy. He said he had a video the other day. Could I play like the little sound? It's just a
Sure.
couple comparisons so
Do
you can
it.
hear it.
You don't say after you sign the contract, you say after we finalize the agreement. You don't say this is our most expensive package. You say this is the premium option for you. You don't say, do you want to pay with your credit card? You say, what form of payment works best for you? You don't say this is the cost. You say this is the investment. You don't say after you
Yeah,
sign
and
the
so
contract, you say
what I thought was
after
so
we finalize.
fascinating about this is here's this guy who has the $1 billion garage service, and he's clearly passionate and fired up about this, and he's talking about the simplest things, and that is reorganizing the puzzle of our words to
That's
where
right.
they. It's so simple, but that's what's so amazing. I haven't seen this until recently. Is that the vocabulary, our diction, the way we speak has so much power, and it's a giant problem to solve. Is there are a bazillion different. Let me just make that word up. There are a bazillion different ways to with tonality and
Body language.
body language and tempo and what we say and when we say it and all these things that you can mix in together. You could say I hate you and do a smile on your face. It doesn't mean the same as like I hate you, right? It's day and night, and that is the amazing thing about. But that's so. I mean, it's complicated at the biggest form, but to break it down, it's the simple things. We don't need to go get a master's degree in business to say, oh, if you just study the basic words, and which is what I'm trying to understand myself now. This is why I said I'm onto the scent. I could smell it. Now I'm really hungry, right? I could smell the snake. I just don't know where it's at. I'm after it. You know what I mean? The simplest things with our structure of our wordings, the tonality, the body language, the when to say it, how to say it, is so powerful. I just texted a friend yesterday, and he's having some health stuff, and I really look up to him a lot. I really look up to him a lot, and I just said, "Hey, I was thinking about you. How are you doing? Are you healing up? Is everything okay?" But usually I would just say like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I started with I was thinking about you because I had learned that when you tell somebody, say, I was thinking about you, or if you say, the other day you popped up in my mind, I saw this, I was like, oh, Richard, it it creates connection because it lets somebody know that you have a spot in their brain.
That's right.
You're important.
That's right.
It's so simple. It's like one sentence. I was thinking about you. I saw something the other day that reminded me of you. Excuse me. I saw something the other day that reminded me of you.
Yeah, that's connection, right? That's bonding. That's the know part. They know you. Like I know you. I think of you. You popped in my head. I did that with a guy Friday. Good friends of mine. We don't talk a lot. We have because they're very busy. We're both doing things. But I just shot him a picture of something new I put on my desk. I just shoot him this picture, and then they're like, "Dude, that is so you." Like it's just
Yeah.
so you. Then he goes, "Hey, how's the family?" And we get in this
Right.
conversation. And he starts it was really cool, like it, and all in text. But like, this, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. His son's getting married next week. He's in Hawaii right now. This guy I'm talking to is speaking in Hawaii. Then he's flying. His son's getting married next weekend. And then let's get together and talk, and we'll work and like, that's because I shot a picture
Yeah.
of this because
Yeah.
you guys will resonate with you guys. And it's like, so you, man. And like, that's those random. I don't have to talk to people every bit. I don't want to talk to everybody every day, right?
Busy man.
Well, I doing stuff, right?
Right.
But you and I have had. You're like, if you're in my tight little circle, and my standing joke. If all my friends were on one hand and I lost 3 fingers, I'd still have all my friends. Okay, so because I got a really small friend circle,
I
right?
like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
So,
a cool way to put that.
but we'll do things like you and I are doing. We'll sit around, right? And hours, like my best friend, his name's Tom. Tom and I will do this for 3 days. We'll have no TV. It's conversations. It's maybe go work out, go hike, go climb, do something like that. We've climbed a bunch of the 14ers, through Colorado together, but we just have these deep conversations that just go. We can do like we did. It's like times 100, right? That's who I hang out with. Because so much is being, different experiences, but you're really getting into stuff, right? And when you have someone like that, those are the people you want to connect with because you can go deep. We do this like once or twice a year at the most. We talk maybe 3 times a year. He's my best friend. Okay. But I go to his place on the south side of Chicago, man. We'll spend 3 days there. We'll get some food and we're catching up for
That's
3
so
straight
cool.
days. It's really, and a lot of people haven't experienced that because they got phones and they got distraction, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
we're like that. We can do that, and like you and I, we can have a 2-hour conversation, and hit a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
because we have depth. Okay. We have a different outlook on our futures. Okay. We're not in a grind. Okay. A grind's a bad thing. I know people use it like the hustle and grind, but like that's
Mhm.
a bad thing. We don't grind. Okay. We achieve.
I like that.
We achieve. That's what we do. So every day is an achievement, a step closer, whatever that is, whatever we're going, but we have purpose and we're working towards that purpose. Right.
Yeah.
So that means we have a lot of input, just like you're doing the book, you're doing the vocabulary. That's input. We're always looking for input because that's what makes us better. That's what gives us a wider range of exposure, right? And stuff that can add to our ability to solve problems. Because every problem is an opportunity.
Right.
Always have, so that when you live that way, when you live that every problem is an opportunity, you talked about the negative and the positive, you live a really positive life. Because no matter what comes your way, it's like you flip that thing, man, and you make it happen. So
Yeah.
that's what I love.
When I was a little kid, I was sleeping on an army cot for like 5 years. We were very impoverished, and I remember seeing a family, and the dad and the son were playing baseball together. And I just remember being a little kid, and I was just thinking, one day, man, I'm gonna figure out whatever they figured out, and I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna be happy. So like this pursuit of happiness. But along the way, and I'm just now getting to this point of just now getting to this state of harmony, and there's a lot of complexities that go into that. But I think there's just so much. There's so much to talk about. But one thing I like to lead with and say is that if I told my friend we were playing golf. What's today? Tuesday. On Sunday morning, I woke up. I was sick. Tried to see if one of my buddies could fill in my slot, and he said he couldn't. So I went, and I was super sick. It didn't feel good. And I said, I showed up sick, and I was being for real. I'm not just saying that. So I feel like crap. But I did wake up in America this morning. So I'm doing pretty good. And then I say that, I mean that for the first time in my life, I really start to appreciate the things that we have in this country and the opportunity. It's not about, it's all about opportunity. It's all about having the ability to try and do things and fail. The opportunity is the most powerful thing. And in this country, I think that there's such a, for a thousand, man, just go back and read Marcus Aurelius and people from 2,000 years ago, and Confucius, who says the man who asks the question is a fool for a moment. The man who never asks a question is a fool for a lifetime. These people from thousands of years ago and in the Bible and stuff have already figured out there's nothing new under the sun. It's just you have to figure it out for yourself. And so it's amazing to have this blissfulness of knowing that, hey, dude, just chill out for a second. It's all, look, one day you're going to die and you'll be gone. And 100 years, they won't remember you anyways, right?
That's right.
Who was the richest man 200 years ago? Who was the richest man 100 years ago? I couldn't tell you. Okay, so if you were the richest man today, what would it matter for that scale? So the main thing is, do you have the connection? Do you have the family? Do you have the friends? But the thing is with America is we have opportunity. We have hospitals everywhere. We have education systems everywhere. We have businesses everywhere. And yes, I would agree. If you talk about, hey, the health is too expensive, I agree. We got to fix it. If you're talking about the education needs to be fixed, I agree. We need to improve it. If you're talking about the business needs to be fixed, I agree. We need to improve it. But the thing is, we're not in some third world country where there's just dirt.
Right.
There's a lot that's here. I just got my associate's degree in marketing, just came in yesterday, and I've been waiting on it for like a year now. And I saw it and I thought, wow, how blessed am I that my country sends me to school for free because I'm on the GI Bill. I get to go to school for free. This is an incredible opportunity. So I say all this, I don't want to sound like one of those guys like, oh my God, everything is sunshine and rainbows. But what I am saying is the reason that I see that and think like that now, it all boils down, everything in life that I have seen so far, and I think I will think like this in 100 years from now, maybe. Maybe I'll buck 29, buck 28.
You can do it. I'm doing it.
But maybe, I know it all boils down to who are you around on a daily and weekly basis? Like, what is your environment? Because you could become the most successful person in the world with all of this knowledge and expertise. and then just drop you right inside the most impoverished area and leave you there for a couple of years, it will destroy you. It will absolutely destroy you. Why do you think the rich people hang out on the coast with all the other rich people? It's not because it's like, hey, look at me, I got the yacht. And being in prosperity, that environment, when I'm at the Phoenician and I see the son and the dad playing golf at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, I'm like, that is prosperity. That is amazing. Now, again, it's important that, the dad doesn't sacrifice his whole sanity just to get there by working a job he hates. And I'm not saying that. Well, what I am saying is, it's just seeing opportunity. The only way to see opportunity, I think, is to be around the right people. Because if you're not around the right people, you're not going to see the opportunity. And that's what I've learned, because I grew up around a lot of pessimistic, negative, cynical people, and they will never do anything. And it's not even about doing the thing. It's about the attempt. There's admiration in the attempt. I don't care if my friend who in the military could run a 7:30 mile and a half. This guy's blazing fast. But watching the kid who was out of shape, who's vomiting his guts up, and he's just not stopping, just not stopping, not stopping. It's a terrible time. I'll remember that for a long time, because I'm like, that is admirable. He was dying. Oh my God.
That's right. Yeah.
The attempt.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's opportunity. Those negative people are still the same negative people, so they live in misery.
Misery.
Okay,
I used to be so miserable, Richard. I
right,
want you to know, I used to be so miserable.
right? Because just you're surrounded by negativity. You got people bringing everything is down, everything is bad. When we talk about the economy, we talk about business. Listen, if the economy's bad and you're in business, guess what you don't have to do? You don't have to participate with the bad economy. You have to remember that Great Depression, pretty bad, created more millionaires than any other time in our history.
Yeah.
How is that possible? There's people like living in the streets and the whole thing, and the whole thing. And like there's more millionaires made because people, you don't have to participate in that part. That's the whole point. When your attitude is about a problem as an opportunity, you can thrive. You will find the place. There's always a need to be filled. There's always a problem to be solved. And when you can bring that problem that everyone thought there wasn't a solution to, guess who's going to be a millionaire? Okay. They're going to want what you have because I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, you can do that. I do it all the time. You do this. How do I get that? Well, you write me a check for $5,000 and I come to, take care of you. So, you know what I mean? But that's the whole thing. Like you're looking for the opportunity. You're not looking at all the misery and people living in the street. Where do we go? How do we fix this? It's always there. And that's the mindset as an entrepreneur we have like inherently. Like we're solving problems. That's a business. Your business solves a problem. That is the 100% core of every business. So when there's a problem I fix, I don't care if you're a software developer or you scoop poop from the dog lawn, right? You're solving a problem.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right? I don't want to step on that. Come clean it. Okay. No, you cut my grass. I don't have time for that. I don't do that anymore. You cut my grass, right? You solved my problem. Now I've opened up 2 hours a week for myself because I don't have to cut my grass.
Yeah.
You solved my problem, right?
Well, can we end it with this? I was going to say, and this is an interesting take, but like my grandfather, I told you earlier, he passed away last week. And what meant a lot to me and to my family was how beautiful his funeral was. They had the taps there, they had a beautiful casket. He was beautifully well dressed. Nobody argued. Everybody behaved. There was no in-law strife. It was, everything was beautiful. It was what he deserved. 87-year-old, served 20 years in the Navy, was a commander, extraordinary man, 47 years, hardware store. But what I thought was, I saw the funeral home, and, funeral homes, they profit off of death, right? Which is fine because people die, and somebody's got to do it.
Every day.
Right?
Yep.
But what the difference is, what I thought about was, if you had asked me 10 years ago about that, I'd be like, man, it's kind of messed up. They're making so much money off of people dying, all the, blah, blah, blah. But then you ask me now, I see opportunity in it. I say, thank you for being so professional and well done to where you get paid well so that when we lay my grandfather down, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Value.
But it's a different mindset shift. And again, I don't think that I would have that if I wasn't hanging around people and talking to people like you on a weekly basis.
You're absolutely right. 100%.
Yeah.
And that can be our biggest takeaway of this whole show, because we've hit this point multiple times, and it's because it's important. As a business owner, you must deliver value, and you must deliver more value than you're being paid for. So you can say they have a 300%, margin markup on caskets. you had an amazing time. Everyone was there. No one killed each other. Everything was great. It was amazing value. Honored your grandfather. The
Right.
whole pack was because of them.
It was.
The value was
It was when Zach was one of the guys working there, when he would walk up and he would talk. He had everything you needed. If you needed coffee, if you needed a snack, if you needed this, if you needed this slideshow, he made a slideshow on the spot. Like, this guy was just like,
I'm telling
this. And everybebody was so friendly, and that is it.
because they
You see what I'm saying?
understand you're dealing. When we talked before we even hit record, it was like I'm not a big fan of death. Not that anyone is, but like it does. It's hard for me.
Hard. Yeah.
Like it's hard. Anyone die. I'm like, I don't want to be around that. You know,
Right.
like I don't want to. My music. My piano teacher died. You know, years ago, and I'm like, he just I didn't know, and they show up a few days later, and the whole story. I'm like, that sucked. You know, I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't like this at all. You know, so they understand this. They'll get you everything you need. There's going to be because everyone is on the edge. Whether you can see it or not, death disturbs people. It reminds us
Yes.
of our mortality.
Yes.
Okay. That could be
Yep.
me tomorrow,
Right.
later today, 30
Right.
years from now, whatever. And they understand that. So how do they dial all that down? That anxiety, because this anxiety, it's, what do you need? I'll get you this. I'll get you this. They speak kind words. They have the right tone, right? They're not all jumping around banging
That's the
cymbals. You know what I mean?
professionalism.
So
Yep.
that's how you drive value in that industry, right? So it's always about, again, if you can deliver 4 times the value, you can charge double the price. That's
Yeah.
what people pay for. You have to have confidence in that. And if you haven't got it yet from our couple hours here, well, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's just understand value, start looking at your business just like you are, whether it's filmmaking or business
Yep.
coaching or you're cutting the grass, building homes, whatever it is, you can deliver value at really high levels. And that'll change everything in your life. Your business, your margins will double,
Yep.
triple. You'll do less work, make more money. There's so many advantages for solving those kind of problems. Like your life will be amazing. Just like what you've done. You've learned that surrounding yourself with the right people is where it's at. It just is,
You have to. You had no choice, because if you're sitting here talking to me, let's say in 5 years, and I have 20 employees and I have 3 kids and I have a huge house and all this weighing down, what's the number one thing I'm going to resort back to? Survival. I just need to make ends meet. And so I don't care about any other rhetoric at all. And so that's why it's important to surround yourself with the right environment, because you subconsciously, and inherently, you're going to pick up on everything that everybody else is doing. And that's the best thing you could ever do for yourself, because, again, you're just going to resort back to survival. But I will end you with this, Richard. This was, which is really cool. This is
That's your
his
grandfather's
hat.
Nice.
Yep, this
He
was
was a
from
commander. No, I love it.
Yep. He 20 years in the Navy, 1960 to 1980. He did go overseas a couple, like 1957. I think it was like when he was in officer training or something. He did some kind of like voyage thing to Spain and England.
Cool.
All the
Yeah.
all the cool stuff. I got the photos, but yeah, it's cool. And so what's interesting is, my mom said that he told her that he wanted me to have it. It's so cool that, again, I don't want it to sound bad, and I think it won't sound bad. People will understand what I'm saying. But when you watch a movie and you see all these movies and they make like, death and like all these crazy stuff that happen, and then we watch it, we're like, I actually enjoyed that. Why would I enjoy watching all this stuff? Somebody died and like a family lost it. But I enjoy, because story is like music to our ears. We don't know how to produce it well, but we know how to hear it well. We don't have to see it well. It's an inherent thing. It's story, just like a guitar strumming. If it's good or bad. And I think like with the opportunity with we have in America and the prosperity that we have, the potential for it, is the fact that I was able to have a beautiful funeral, that I am able to hold this and have this and put it into a shadow box, is that, my granddad didn't die in the dirt somewhere and he just got swept into the ditch because, it was a terrible, we live in an incredible place. And that's all I'm saying, is we live in an incredible place. And right now is the best time ever. And if anybody's worried about the future, about AI and all this stuff, hey, look back 500 years ago. We were drowning people in lakes for having red hair. We were pulling people apart. We were cooking them in brass bowls to where when they would scream, it sounded like a bull was roaring or whistling or whatever it was.
Right.
So if you're scared of the future, hey, get scared of the past, because look back a little bit.
Be glad you're not there. Yeah, it's
and this is what I'm saying, is this mindset of it's just shifting and being around the right people, is to see the opportunity, to see the prosperity. It's like, hey, look, things can go bad, but this is the best time we've ever lived in history ever. Right.
Yeah, they're like I said, it's all the vision you have. It's all the opportunity, like you said. Look, everything is an opportunity. You've got to look for opportunity. Don't do foolish things, but really understand that opportunity is there. And if you diagnose the problem properly, it becomes an opportunity.
Yeah.
How do I fix it? It's always about solving a problem. That's the basis of business. We've said this a few times, but that's the takeaway. Everything you said, if you're in the US, you could be anything you want. You can go be a scuba diver on the West Coast, scuba diver down there.
Anything.
You could be a fisher. You could be anything. Climb mountains all day. You can take guys on tour guides. You can live halfway up Mount McKinley. It don't matter, right? Like you can do whatever you want. So like there's no poor me. It's just go do it. I mean, I lost everything, started over and rebuilt so what? 6 kids, no money, no job, no business, no home. So what? It's an opportunity. Let's do the next thing. It sucked.
I
It
love
sucked.
that.
Okay. But we made it. And here we are, and
Here
guys
we
like you
are.
and I can sit here and chat. And again, last thing is that alignment you talked about a lot.
Yeah.
This show is an example of alignment. Okay. I've been on your podcast. That's how we got to know each other. We just did this whole thing because we're aligned. Okay. We can go because everything that we're speaking about strengthens that alignment. It lets us know, right? And we're all back and forth. So again, when people are engaging in conversation, you're looking for alignment. That's what you're doing, right? Oh, that guy's a turd. I'm out of here. Like the guy right away, you're like, yeah, he's moping about all this. We get it, right? But to understand that's a big thing. So Jake, this has been just outstanding. So we have to finish properly with how do they get a hold of you, follow you, whatever the people do, like what do you share? Websites, whatever you need. Everyone's got something.
Yes. So J1mediaproductions.com is my production company. I'm building a website called Jacob.me, which is why I'm working with Zach for the personal branding to help me build my brand for the podcast and kind of what I stand for, clean eating. But basically, it revolves around personal growth. I'm fascinated by the concept. So Jacob.me, JacobChappell.me, that's new. And then social media, JacobChappell.me as well on Instagram, anything like that. Shoot me an email, text me. I love talking about this stuff. And so it's all fascinating. It's all fun and games.
Good. Awesome. Yeah, this might have to be 2 parts. I don't know. We cover
Maybe
some ground.
we ran 2 hours a while.
We might have to, and since I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we could do a Monday, Wednesday.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
go.
Like part 1, part 2, keep them hanging for a day. Go back in for the rest of it. But this has been just magnificent. I'll use the
Richard,
word.
the same.
It's been.
And this stuff gets me fired. If you can't tell, it gets me fired up. So I
It's
really
good
appreciate
stuff.
it.
Yep. Birds of a feather here, man. So thank you again, Jake, and everybody. We will see you on the next STS podcast.